right, we'll wait for everybody to still kind of flow in, but we'll get the ball rolling here, and we do want to get to your questions as quickly as possible because I know a lot of you have some, and this is about you here on Draft 101. Welcome in to Draft 101 2025. Thank you for everybody that has shown up, and a big thank you to Whataburger as well. Yes. Big thank you to Whataburger, and of course, Gavin Spittle, Derek Eagleton, for always making this possible. I am Zach Wolchuk of 105.3 The Fan, the G-Bag Nation. Also a member of the Draft Show, we've got Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Kyle Youmans, Tommy Yarrish, the one and only Voch Lombardi. Oh, there's Bobby Belt back there. Hey, Bobby.
Hi, Bobby.
And our draft godfather, the great Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. So when it comes to getting questions in, I think what the plan was is you'll come over here, you'll speak into the mic, and you can just ask a question. So when we get to that point, if you have one, just raise your hand, and then we can try and line up maybe 2 or 3 at a time, and then just fill in the gaps as we go. But I did want to start off, we'll just kick this around the table, but having done the draft homework, and I know all of us have spent months grinding on this thing, and I'll start with you here, Bryan, because you've been doing this a long time, but what has stood out to you about this year's draft, maybe a strength, maybe a weakness, anything specific that maybe is different from any other class?
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that when you look at this draft, I'm surprised at the number of running backs that we have, and traditionally it's the quality of the running backs you kind of worry about a little bit over the years, and this one can go pretty deep. I think the defensive tackle area is very, very good. The corners are outstanding as well. Not as many offensive tackles. That's kind of been a little bit of a sticking point for me. You've got guys who are potentially tackles that could play guard. And so it's been unique to try and navigate that. But I've been really excited about the running backs, the edges, the defensive tackles. I think there's a really good group of cornerbacks as well. You just have to be able to kind of find the pockets of players, particularly the type of guys that you want. Maybe you want a little bit of a taller guy, a little bit shorter guy. Maybe you want a nickel corner. Maybe you want a wide receiver that really only plays in the slot. This draft, when I was stacking my board and just looking at it overall, it just seemed to have really good pockets of players. And I was excited about that as we try and navigate this thing.
Voch, you're a big offensive line guy, as both of us are. I wondered, in your opinion, when it comes to the offensive tackles in this year's class, last year we had a ton go into the first round. This year, where do you think the strengths and weaknesses are?
Well, this isn't a year where I'm, rooting for us to get a tackle. But I would love to get Josh Simmons. He's a guy that I would like. Mimbu is a guy that I would like. But, I don't think it's a situation where, we're in round 4.
Right.
Where are the tackles at? Like once we get past the first round, second round, okay, we can move on from there. Then we can look for linebackers maybe. Then we can look for cornerbacks. But as far as tackles, I mean, Chase Lund is a guy that I love from UConn. You can look at him later if the Cowboys want to, look at that route. Contracts coming up, Terrence Steele, maybe you want to look at that. But for the most part, if it's not one of those first 2 guys, Mimbo was a visit, that's possible. I think the league is wrong about Josh Simmons. That sounds arrogant to me because I'm just a YouTuber. Hey, guys that do this for millions of dollars, I love Josh Simmons, and y'all to take him in the 20s. I would take him at 12, but I think Josh Simmons is the dude that you should take at 12. But the Cowboys are shockers. The Cowboys are, roll up one day, and guys we haven't even talked about, it'll be Josh Simmons, so could be.
Tommy, this is your first year with the crew, and it's been awesome to have you with us. What has stood out to you as you've worked with your first year here on the Draft Show?
Thanks, man. It's good to be here. I think what stands out about this class, and for the first time diving into it, is for the positions of need that Dallas has coming into this draft, they've been very fortunate that that's where it's very rich. You think of defensive tackle, running back, high-end wide receivers. I think they're all there for you in this draft. So now it's just a matter of, okay, how do they want to pair these picks together? And I know that's something we've all talked about on the show recently is, okay, what do you do with these first 3 rounds? Is it corner, wide receiver, defensive tackle? Is it corner, wide receiver, running back? How they go about structuring this. But I think the positions that they're going to need, they're in a good spot wherever they decide to take those positions. And I think that is something that can't go overseen because that's not going to be the case all the time.
Kyle, what's a spot in this year's class that's maybe not quite as strong as what we talked about last year?
Yeah, I think Bryan talked about it whenever it comes to offensive tackles, just because you've got a lot of guys that may have played tackle in college and has bumped inside and would bump inside at the next level. So I won't go too far in on the offensive lineman side of things, but I think quarterback's an interesting one because we've heard really all the time. I mean, this is the 6th year I've been doing this draft show, and usually it's the quarterbacks that rise to the top late, and we still haven't seen that. We've even seen guys like Shedeur Sanders be questioned on whether or not he would be a top 10 pick at the end of the day. So I think the quarterback position is a wild card in this whole thing because it's not the 4 or 5 guys at the top of the draft that are locks to go in the top 15 picks. Instead, you may get 1 or 2 guys that could be there, and then instead you're at 12, and there are multiple quarterbacks that are still on the board. Not that Dallas would take one, but then the conversation begins, would a team be interested in trading up and taking a quarterback at that level? So I think it's an interesting draft there. John Snyder, one of Bryan Broaddus' former interns up there in Seattle, talked about it this week, though. You have to have pause whenever it comes to the quarterback position. You can't necessarily write them off early in the first round because Jackson Dart and Tyler Shugg could still work their way up there if we're not careful.
The chaos could ensue with the quarterbacks
Absolutely.
for sure. It could just be Cam Ward in the top 10, or maybe Shedeur Sanders ends up going. Maybe the Saints throw a wild card out there, and they do go Jackson Dart, which can then push other players down the board to the Cowboys. Nick, is there a player that maybe we haven't discussed as much at 12 that you think could maybe surprise us, like in a CeeDee Lamb class, and fall there at 12?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I as I was going through edges today, I was looking at Jalen Walker, and I'm seeing a potential of if those quarterbacks start going, if a couple of those receivers go, if you see Matthew Golden get in that top 11, is Jalen Walker a type of talent you can't pass up on at 12? Does it become one of those situations? And that's where it gets fascinating to me, right? Because obviously they added depth at that position during free agency, adding Peyton Turner, adding Dante Fowler Jr. I think they're all right with Michael Parsons. That deal's going to get done eventually. But if you're adding that quality of depth at that edge spot with a player that can also play back in the box if you need him to, considering DeMarvion Overshown's injury, that would be a nice luxury to have going into the season. I think that was one I looked at that could possibly slip, and a guy we really haven't talked about a whole lot at all. That's a possibility.
So is he a linebacker
yeah,
or an
linebacker edge?
Thank you, Bryan.
Yeah.
Is he a
How did
linebacker?
I know you guys were
Y'all
going to
waiting on
jump
that?
in there?
I'm just curious, like where
Yeah.
do you draft him at 12 overall?
Yeah, I draft him to play DeMarvion Overshown's role until DeMarvion Overshown is healthy,
We're
and then
gonna
I
lose
have
games like
three,
that,
and then
dude.
I have 3 rovers on the field at all times.
That's kind of a cop-out answer.
We're gonna lose games like that.
No, not
man.
really.
No,
I mean, that's choosing both. You just chose both guys, an edge or
Yeah.
a linebacker.
Yeah, versatility. And this is the versatility conversation we're about to have again, Brian.
Yeah, Nick
Bryan
and
loves
I
it.
will go at each other about the versatility conversations. But do you feel like both spots, though?
I do.
Because I was talking to some NFL scouts about this, and they were worried about his size. And if you play him as a true edge,
Right.
is he going to get wore down? But there's some other guys in this draft. You know, with Mike Green, from Marshall. I mean, a little bit lighter guys and stuff like that.
James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee.
Yeah, and if NFL scouts were kind of saying, listen, I would play him as off ball and then use him as a situational pass rusher to initially to kind of keep him fresh going in and then
that's
there.
what I'm saying. It's being able to be utilized in both of those roles, especially in a linebacker room that's still so young, still so battered up.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity for you.
Would you be surprised if he was there at 12?
Yeah, but I don't think I'd be as surprised as some of the other guys. I think.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there would be some other names that would surprise me a little bit more. I'm starting to feel like I'd be surprised if Teteroa McMillan's there at 12. But there's some other players I feel like that are locks in that top 10 that make a lot of sense.
Who's
Who surprised you there?
Membu?
Mimbu,
The offense tackle from
Yeah.
Mizzou.
Mizzou.
Mimbu's another interesting one just because of the offensive line needy teams that are there in that top 11 is, okay, which one of those teams value Mimbu or Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks a little bit more, and that's not something we'll find out until draft day. But there's going to be a wrench thrown in that top 11. We saw it last year with Michael Penix getting taken at 8. There's going to be something that moves a couple of those players down. We're going to have a fascinating conversation at 12. I really think we are.
Bobby, not to forget about you sitting in the back there. Love you.
I saw him looking lonely.
He does look lonely. It's like, guys, I'm here. But as Voch says, you are our what does the league know? What's the information, right? What are you thinking in terms of some craziness that can maybe go in the first 11 picks before the Cowboys pick at 12?
It's it's interesting because I think that everybody started to assume New Orleans is going to go quarterback after the Derek Carr stuff. The more you're starting to hear coming out of New Orleans is that that's not a slam dunk at all. I still think that New Orleans is unlikely to go quarterback just from talking to some people. But, the one that you consistently heard, whether that's in the top 10 or a little bit later in the draft, and it started in Indy, was the idea that a team might like Jackson Dart more than Shedeur Sanders, or a team might like Tyler Shuck more than Shedeur Sanders, and that you could end up seeing one of those teams doing a Michael Penix type of thing and going, all right, we're just going to go get our guy right now. But, I think it'll be just everybody right now feels like they're kind of standing pat. It's a little bit of what Brian's talked about, of the idea of 10 through 40 might be really close. And because of that, you're not going to have teams that say, I want to spend a lot of capital to go up. You'd like to find an extra fourth-round pick somewhere. You'd like to find an extra pick somewhere if you're Dallas, but who's going to come up and trade with you? When you look at other teams that are behind you, it's a lot of teams with a third that they already have that's missing, or, a fourth, or those teams are already kind of light on capital, and is it worth expending any of that to go up? You'd have to probably find, does Seattle want to find their next quarterback after, Darnold? Or does Pittsburgh want to come up? And are they willing to pay that price? But I think that's kind of the big thing that stands out, is just the unknown with the quarterback factor. That's the one wrench that I think could mess things up here. When you mentioned Jalen Walker, I do think there's a shot Walker would fall to Dallas. Because I think Walker is just – there are times where I think teams will sit there and go, I don't know what to do with him. I don't know what to do with that player. We've seen it before in the past with –
what happened with Micah, in a sense?
Yeah, honestly. It happened with – you look at these hybrid-type players. It happened with Jabril Peppers in the past. It happened with Shaq Thompson in the past. I think it could absolutely happen with Jalen Walker. But, again, it just takes one team to go, I think he's Micah. Or I think he's Hassan Reddick if I play him at edge full time. And it honestly just takes one.
Well, and Carolina's a team that has been at least rumored to be really interested in Jalen Walker, and they came out and said they do view him as an outside linebacker. To your point there, Brian. So it will be fascinating how this ends up going in the top 10. Maybe the Rams are another team that could do something crazy. You've talked about them maybe looking at a quarterback of the future. I've also heard maybe a tight end. Could they want to go up and go get a Tyler Warren, a Colston Loveland, one of these players for L.A. and the Rams as well?
See, but Zach, there's no way that Milroe lands in that top 12 range, though, right? I mean, we're not talking about it, but we just saw the tweets, and hey, Milroe's going to be in Green Bay, and he's not going to be in Green Bay to sit around to the third and second round. So where does Jalen Milroe go? Quarterback from Alabama. Where does Milroe go?
I think Milroe might get 4 quarterbacks go in the first. And if it is, I think Milroe is the 4th. I think it would end up being Sanders and then Dart and, of course, Cam Ward going number 1 overall to Tennessee, and then Jalen Milroe. I mean, is that one where you see New Orleans, maybe they end up taking the quarterback? The Jets, are they a wild card in this scenario as well? And then you get Pittsburgh maybe ends up saying, hey, Jalen Milroe's our guy, Kyle.
Well, and even like Seattle, too, a team at 18 that doesn't necessarily need a guy right now, but could end up developing one for the future. The Rams, same kind of thing in 26. Matthew Stafford's not a spring chicken anymore out there in L.A. They could have a guy to kind of groom behind him. So I wouldn't be shocked if Milroe works into the first round. But if we're talking about him in the top 11 picks,
that would be
wild.
Teams suck at drafting. Why not? They're not good at this.
Tommy would take him in the top 12.
I don't know if I'd take him in the top 12,
sorry.
but I think when you look at Milroe, I think he's got Pittsburgh Steeler written all over him. Just in terms of what Mike Tomlin would be looking for and what he can bring to that offense, and with the receivers that they've got, you've got a deep threat in George Pickens. I mean, then they got DK Metcalf too in the offseason.
Sure.
Yeah. He completely changes the game with his legs, and an offense like that with pieces around him like that already, you got a lot of promising stuff.
Do you think he's ready to start right now?
No.
Not fully.
Yeah.
Not fully.
He
I
needs
think
a little
he
seasoning.
could use a little seasoning.
Georgia
yeah.
Milroe is. Georgia
Milroe
is
could start for anybody.
Yeah,
ready
if
to
you
go right
could
now.
channel that half, just that half
Milroe.
specifically. Bobby, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, first off, I'm not convinced Jalen Milroe is ready to start at Alabama, much less the NFL.
Damn.
But I think that when you look at, we all assume you'll get there's always the quarterback tax, and somebody will come up and they'll take a quarterback. I think there is a possibility this is 22. Where Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback who went in the first round. Yeah. I'm not saying it's likely. Somebody will probably take Shedeur somewhere in the teens or something. But we all kind of go, man, people always reach on quarterbacks. 22 is an example where the league said no. And the league went ahead and said, nope, we'll go ahead and we'll let Malik Willis fall to the third round. We'll let Matt Corral fall to day 3. And so if teams are really like, I'm not in love with any of these quarterbacks, they may just wait it out like they did a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'd keep an eye on teams in the top of the second round, because I'm talking to some people that are already kind of posturing themselves, the Giants, New England, that maybe could try and trade back into the bottom of the round. So you got people, you're going to throw chum in the water if you're the Giants or New England and say you're calling those teams the back end. I'd start with Sean Payton in Denver at 20 and kind of work my way back and just say, hey, listen, I might be interested coming up there if my guy's there, and you kind of know if you're coming back into the round, you're probably going to get looking for a quarterback. So we might have a couple of teams that come from the top of the second round back in to the bottom of the round, and those teams at the bottom might say, okay, well, we could pick up a pick just going down a few spots.
Yeah, and I'm with you there, Brian, because that fifth-year option is so valuable, especially
Right.
at the quarterback position.
I know
You
it's
look at a guy
important to
like-
John Snyder.
Yeah.
Snyder was, and John and I have talked about this a bunch of getting that fifth year. John can't help himself. He's going to take a running back there probably. That's what John does. But yeah, it's something that you kind of you have to plan out, and the fifth-year option is always something that kind of draws you into that.
Granted, Tyler Shugg would be like 47 after his fifth-year option, so
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know if you're trading back in to get that guy.
weird, man. Yes, Babe Laufenberg, though. He's a big fan of Tyler Shugg.
He is.
Maybe we're off on him. Okay, I do want to open this up to your questions because a lot of you, I know that's why you're here. You wanted to get a question in. So if we have anybody in the front row specifically, you've got one. Okay, let's go ahead and just line up at you as well, you two, and then just kind of fill in the gaps. When one person leaves, another person will go row by row. If you have a question, you can just fill in. Give us your name, and then just go ahead and ask away.
Okay. Scott Alexander.
What's up, Scott?
I've got a quick Broaddus story for you right quick. Okay.
Okay.
This could go anywhere.
Well, this is a good one. It's going to answer a lot of questions. 2015, I was living in South Carolina. It was 50th birthday. My wife and two daughters came out to come to the stadium for the first new game there. My 9-year-old daughter, we came, did the Cowboy travel thing, which had the question and answer session at
Star
the hotel.
Sports Tour.
That's right. Brian's asking questions. So my 9-year-old, who basically sat in my lap watching games growing up, is more rabid than I am, was like, Daddy, I want to ask a question. So I gave her a question to ask. And so there's guys like all of us, right? And then there's this 9-year-old. And so Broaddus is asking questions. And she looks up and he's like, hello, darling. What's your question?
Yeah.
And she goes on this 2-minute detailed that
Yeah.
I've told her step by step by step. And when it's over, Brian looks at her and goes, sweetheart, there are people in the building that don't ask questions that good. Okay, so anyway, we go back home. My father said, well, how was your trip?
Yeah.
And she said, it was great. And he said, well, how was it? Fine. She said, I got to ask Broaddus a question, Papa. I said, well, and he goes, who's Broaddus? To which she replies, oh, he's the boss of the Cowboys, Daddy. He runs the Cowboys.
Let him know.
That's right.
Yeah, and so I was like,
Yeah,
and my
Daddy
father was
Brian.
like, wait, what? I said, I'll explain
Yeah.
later. Yeah, so, but
I remember exactly. I do. And
Yeah.
it was a great question, though. It really, really was.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, it was good because she loved it, but I'm at
Yeah.
the table going, you heard what he said, right? People in the building don't ask questions like that.
Yeah.
But my question is basically this. Y'all talk a lot about, okay, the Cowboys have 13 first-round grades. The Packers have 12. The Falcons have 9 or whatever like that. And a first-round grade is somebody that has no holes, is, I guess, the rough
Sure.
definition of it, right? But my question is, do different teams have different lists of holes? Are there some teams that have like 10 different things you've got to hit to be a first rounder, or 5 different or 6 things and all like that? You've talked about it a lot, and I've probably missed it, but and I'll let you answer. I really enjoy the show, guys. I've watched it for years. I live in Waco now, so I wasn't going to miss the opportunity.
Waco,
to come
Texas,
up there.
baby.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All right.
Wasn't gonna
Thank
miss
you.
it.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So,
254 represent.
Brian, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, there's different things. There's places I've been, and that's Green Bay, Philly, Jacksonville, Dallas. Each group has position specifics that they look for in quarterbacks or offensive linemen, and the Dallas Cowboys no different than, and they so when you're out scouting, you have these things you're looking for, these traits. And then you start to put together as you meet and you're doing your reports and all that, and you're talking about the players, you're going through these traits. And then it's really just kind of adding them all up. It's like, which one of these traits can we absolutely live with, and which of these traits that if they don't have them, we can't live with that player. So each front office and scouting department has specifically stuff that their coaches have asked. Hey, bring me this type of guy. I need this trait. I need this. And so Will has done a really good job over the years of having to kind of adjust, whether it was, with Jason Garrett's crew and then, with Mike McCarthy's crew and now with Schottenheimer's crew, of having to adjust along the way and kind of tweak that. But every team has that when you go in, that you say, hey, we have to have this from our players. And then if they don't, well, you can't put them in the first round. You have to find, if they lack a bunch of traits, then of course the further down the board they're going to be. But yeah, every team is really different, and it's really kind of built to the coaching staff and the kind of schemes that they play.
What was your question, sir?
Okay. Hey, guys. My name is Larry Billingsley, and I appreciate you being here tonight, first of all.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
I've looked at mock drafts, and I've listened to some of you guys, and I've heard you say things like, well, we got to remember this is the way we rank these guys, and this is what we would do if we were making the selection. But then you stop and think, well, but what is Jerry and the Cowboys going to do? That's really the question. What are they going to do? And so I've been thinking about this, and you mentioned earlier you were talking about Shedeur Sanders.
Uh-huh.
If he was to drop the 12 and Jerry is on the clock, we all remember Johnny Manziel. If Jerry's on the clock, and apparently he has from what we can gather, a good relationship with Dion, is Jerry gonna feel any obligation to select Shedeur? I'm not saying you might pick him, but
Right.
what is Jerry gonna do?
Jerry's gonna get pulled out of that room really fast. They're gonna take his phone and unplug it, and either Sanders is gonna be on the clock at 13, or the Cowboys gonna get a bunch of picks from some team trading up to go get Sanders. But I don't know, fellas.
I think it's an interesting question because there is history there, but I also think you can learn from history. The pick instead of Johnny Manziel turned into
Zach Martin.
That worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to you have a quarterback now that I know there's probably split opinions in the room, but there's a quarterback now that you're confident in within the building, and Shedeur Sanders doesn't change anything for you. So if Shedeur's on the board, I think it may be a fun topic of conversation, but I don't think it would get anything further.
Not only did you pay that quarterback that's in the building,
Yeah,
but
that's
you
also
also
true.
just traded and got another
quarterback
in
yeah.
Joe Milton. They said
Yeah.
they wanted a young quarterback. They went and got
Right.
one.
Yeah.
And to also ease the concerns, if there is a concern about Jerry potentially taking a Shedeur at 12, is Dak has 4 years left. A rookie deal would be 4 plus the rookie option.
Yep.
You would basically be wasting that rookie contract on a quarterback in essence. So, yeah.
It's also important that I don't think they're going to have a grade on Shedeur that's anywhere close to the one they had on Manziel. They did have a first on Manziel. I'm not convinced they're going to have a first-round grade on Shedeur Sanders. And again, it's not just the Milton factor like Nick just mentioned. You also got to remember they just hired their new head coach in large part because of the recommendation from the quarterback.
Right.
And so, I mean, they've kind of got their lotto ticket already. I don't think they're going to have him graded as high as Manziel. And he's in lockstep with your brand new head coach. So, I mean, they're kind of tied together, and I think that's what they're doing moving forward.
The room is going to be really, really quiet when that happens. The room is going to be quiet, and seriously, and nobody's going to say a word, and Jerry's going to say, Sanders is up there on that board. And nobody's going to want to say a damn word. You're going to be looking down at your notes. You're going to be cleaning your glasses. You're going to fake a bathroom break maybe. He's going to remind you of that. But the one thing they're going to trust is their stack.
Yep.
And it's how they have the players rated. And that's when they lost Ryan Shazier, that's what Steven and Will and Jason Garrett reminded him. We have Zach Martin as the next player. Johnny's down below. And Jerry is going to remind him. He's absolutely going to remind him. And like I say, it's going to be really quiet, and then they're going to explain that player, whether it's Golden, McMillan, whoever, that's our guy. And then Jerry's going to say, okay, and they'll hand that card in.
Yeah. How are you, sir? What do you have for us?
What's going on, y'all? Very nice to be here. Appreciate y'all having me. Broaddus, appreciate you putting this on.
Thank you.
You're a legend.
Legend.
And so
Get fired, you get to do this.
I just came after work, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
yes, sir. Thank you. I do AC work. If somebody gets hot or cold
AC.
or whatever.
All right.
Got y'all. My name is Paul, by the way. And
What up, Paul?
I wanted to say, first of all, does anybody want an IPA?
No.
Voodoo Ranger beer? No one.
No, we're good.
Good, thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate y'all letting it be BYOB. And also, the tension is clear. The diss tracks have gotten between you guys.
Yep.
There's no other reason Bobby would not be in the center. But I also want to ask, do you think there's going to be a lot of trade downs in this draft? Because there's a lot of depth, but not a lot of crazy talent.
Right.
Do you guys think there's going to be more trade downs this year? We're going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah, kind of like to what Bobby said earlier. I think it was Bobby that said 10 to 40 are pretty close together. And there's a lot of teams that think that same way. And if you feel like you can stick where you're at 18 or 20 with Seattle and Denver, what is the investment you get out of trading up to 12? And that's going to have to be who's available on the board. Is it one of these quarterbacks that one of these teams just gets really excited about? Is it one of these offensive linemen that is slipping that somebody gets excited about? I think that would probably be the only opportunity you have a tango partner. Last year, it made a lot more sense to have a tango partner because there were so many talented players, especially those offensive linemen right there in those 20s. You made it easy to get a deal with Detroit. This time around, I don't think that you're going to have as many phone calls waiting for you. I think you're going to have to stick at 12. That's just my guess, but I can almost guarantee you they will be keeping an eye on those phones to see what kind of deal they get because they need an extra pick. They need an extra day 2 pick. That's the fact of the matter for giving up the 4th for Jonathan Mingo. And so, to pick up that extra pick would be awesome, but I don't see it happening. That's just me.
Well, and outside of pick 40, from that point down, it's muddled there too. There's a lot of kind of interesting thought process. A guy that could be in the 4th round for one team might be in the 6th or the 7th round for another team. So I think trading back may not be the case at that point. But I think whenever it gets to round 5, where the Cowboys have 2 picks in round 5, 2 in round 6, and then 3 more in round 7, it may be a point of not trading up early and just getting that 4th round pick back, but pulling the trigger when they see a guy that they like. They see a prospect that's up there that's available on the board at X number of overall selection, and then you package those picks together to try and go up and get it. It's going to be a targeted approach, and the Cowboys aren't the only team that's going to think that way.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, though, you're in a situation where I just want value for my pick. Mm-hmm. If you're going to get me to make me move from my spot, okay, and you saw, and as we work this out, as we all have our trade charts and we talk about it, and I should get player 89 in this trade, but you're offering me player 149. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in that. I want value for my pick, and I'll stand in there and make a pick. Damn it. I mean, I'll do it, but you give me value for my pick. I'm not just going to bail just to get a pick. There's a difference. There's why you stack your board. Player 89 is better than player 149, in my opinion. So give me value for my pick. And maybe that's why no one ever called me when we were doing this, because that was always my attitude about it. But I always want value. I just don't want to go back just to go back. I don't think there's any. I mean, like I say, there's just, to me, give me the value, and I think there's a lot of teams that might not get value for their pick. I might be one of those guys that go up.
We had earlier today on the fan, we had Thomas Dimitroff on, Brian's
Tommy
old
D.
buddy,
Tommy D.
Former GM of the Falcons, and he had talked about how he was one of the few in the league who looked for the trade up consistently. That's what he wanted. He wanted to go up. He was always looking for that. And we had asked him, we said, all right, who's like that in the league left right now that you would say that's a target that you can call them, they're usually looking to go up? And the one guy he singled out was Howie Roseman, and they're picking 32nd. And I don't know that there's a 12 to 32 that makes a lot of sense. When Schneider comes out and talks about, hey, these quarterbacks, people may like them more than everybody's talking about. All right, well, they've got multiple day 2 picks. They got multiple thirds, multiple seconds. You might entertain that. Ask him. Call, see if you've got a dancing partner there. There's a chance. Right now, as it stands now, it's the first time since 2014 where every team holds their first-round pick. And so everybody's kind of held on to them right now. there might be a case if nobody's really wanting to move up where you could see first rounders moved more likely for players on draft day for established veterans like a Jalen Ramsey or somebody like that than there would be to actually go up and get somebody.
Yeah, because it's fun to say, oh, I'd like to trade back, but you got to have a player that the team wants to move up for.
I sat there for 13 years always wishing the phone would ring.
Yeah.
It never did. Never did. I ran a draft in Philly in '98, and it's the fastest they've ever handed in a first-round pick. I told the guys in the room, I said, we're waiting 7 minutes. If that phone doesn't ring, we're handing that card in Trey Thomas. I go, okay.
Ended up being a good one.
At the 7-minute mark, I said, hand the damn card in. Because you do. And the thing the Cowboys won't do, the Cowboys won't call because they won't call because they're afraid they're going to lose the trade. They say that. The minute you call, you lose leverage. So think about that. But yeah, I've sat in a room for 13 years. Phone doesn't always ring. It's real easy to say trade back.
Right.
It's really hard to do.
How many Pro Bowlers did you draft in 1998, by the way?
4.
4? Very good.
Woo.
That's a
Pretty
dog
good
right there.
draft. Pretty good
One
draft.
had dog in him.
It was that.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, we got our guy in, this is an old school looking Cowboys shirt.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. My name Ricky Wright.
What up, Ricky?
I'm thrilled to see y'all guys.
Thank
I
you.
go walking and listen to the draft show and lunch break and have something to do every day.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank
Thank you.
But I got a prospect I haven't heard y'all talk about a lot.
Ooh, okay, Ricky.
He's Torrey Hope of Colorado State. He was killing Dion on the overtime game. I thought he'll be a nice fit for Dallas, but I know he was hurt this year, and but he's a real talented athlete. And he played for Colorado State. Do y'all know anything where he might be drafted at?
Torrey Horton.
Yeah.
I've
Me
got him
personally-
late 4th.
I got him in the 5th round. Yak guy, big catch guy, deep ball guy. They didn't really make him run a whole bunch of routes. So he just was slant guy, bubble guy, make you miss guy. But if you like yak guys like I do, then you'll move him up a little bit. But if you like guys that have a lot of nuance to their game, you'll go, well, he doesn't run a bunch of routes. He's not very nuanced. I wouldn't take him that high. But I like him. Torrey Holden's cool.
Yeah, I have him the top receiver in the 4th round for me. Elite 2023 season. I mean, you look at that 23 tape, there's some really fun stuff there. And he had the option to come out last year. And if he did, he probably could have ended up being a 2nd, 3rd round pick. Unfortunately, he came back in 2024, and it suffered really bad due to injury. He's battled this knee injury throughout his college career that kind of plays into a strength concern that you have at the next level, maybe a play strength type of concern. But when you look at that 23 tape and when he is healthy, what he can do, he's an athletic, quick route runner, blends his stem and breaks seamlessly. He had 96 receptions and 23 from everywhere on the field at all 3 levels with subpar QB play, in my opinion. I think he's a talented receiver. It's just a matter of can he stay healthy. That's going to be the biggest thing with Torrey Horton. But I wouldn't be surprised if we look up in a couple years. Let's say this guy stays healthy and he ends up being a pretty solid pick for one of these teams.
Yeah, this guy is really good with contested catches too because of the size and stuff. So yeah, he's. I think everybody's got him in that 4th, 5th round area. I think that's kind of where we're looking at right now.
Yeah, he was super productive. I mean, he averaged 94.7 yards a catch and 10 total touchdowns. Yeah. I agree with all of you. He's not a big yak guy, but he is somebody when it comes to possession receivers. I mean, he makes some tough catches along the sideline as well in the red zone area, and he can be a punt returner for you. So how is he coming back from the injury? The medical will be important there, but that is a good 4th round receiver. I'm with you. I like the name.
He ran a 4.41 at the combine after he had a season-ending knee injury
That's
in
insane.
October. That's pretty impressive. So if that still continues to track medically, then
Should be
Nick,
good to go.
Nick hit it on the money. The 2023 tape on him is awesome, and so like I said, I got him in the late 4th.
Yeah, I'm with you. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. My name is Logan. I'm Plano senior graduate.
There we go.
Well, go Wildcats.
Let's go, Plano.
So I just want to say I started listening to The Fan when I was in 6th grade, and now I'm about to graduate high school. College, not high school.
I was about to say.
That was 10 years ago, or over 10 years ago.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I was like, do you play receiver?
No, I'm not Josh Gordon. I just wanted to say, Voch, I've been subscribed to you since 2017, which feels like a long time. I mean, it was a long time ago. This is almost 9 years ago. I want to say that you and Bryan are the reason I started watching film, so that's awesome.
That's
it
awesome.
will enhance your knowledge of the game if you can get your hands on it, which is becoming harder and harder and harder these days. But I just want to say, I have a question for Voch. So during the 2020 draft, when CeeDee Lamb got picked, you did one of the greatest reactions and dances I've ever seen to a draft pick. I just want to say, what type of pick at 12 would get you to do that reaction in this draft?
Shamar Stewart.
It'd be Josh Simmons.
Man, I'm 33 now, man. I can't just get up and dance like I used to.
Oh, lies.
But
You're telling me if Josh Simmons is not there and he's the pick at 12, you're not doing a little dance.
I am a professional now.
So you're going to do a professional dance.
And Derek Eagleson would kick me out the room
No.
if I got up and danced. I'll stretch. But Josh Simmons is one. T-Mac is another one. Love his game. Honestly, as long as it's a player that me and the Cowboys agree on, we good to go. You know.
So not 3rd round grade Michael Williams.
Sure. I am not as high on Michael as and look, I don't even know if the Cowboys high on Michael. That's just rumors, but I'm not as high. If it's Michael, I'm gonna keep a straight face. I'm gonna break down the player, and we're gonna give him his due, like Brian say. But boy, when I leave, I'm gonna be fussing. But
fussing
Josh
and cussing.
Simmons and T-Mac is the way, man.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate
Thank
you,
you.
brother.
Thanks,
I
man.
appreciate you. Thank you
Appreciate
for
support,
coming. How are you doing, sir?
How's it going? My name's Cole.
What up,
Cole?
What's up, Cole?
Hey, Kyle. First off, want to give y'all y'all's flowers. Thank you so much for doing this. All the podcasts that y'all do, Voch's YouTube channel, Love of the Star, all that gets me through my work day.
Appreciate you.
And it's a long work day. Bear with me. I'm bad at public speaking.
Take your time, man. You good.
Obviously, the big point pre-draft that we talk about is a lot of what happens rounds 1 through 5, specifically rounds 1 through 3. But something I want to bring up, one of the best things that I think the Cowboys do is what they do after the draft. Now, Nick, I know you've been talking recently about how they could be looking for a quarterback undrafted. What kind of names do you think will be there? Obviously, we don't know who will be there because there could be some surprises in the 6th and 7th. But what names do you think could be there that you would like the Cowboys to bring in? And also, second question, one player I don't hear talk about a lot because I feel like a lot of the shine is on Shadur and Travis Hunter. But can you give a scouting report on Jimmy Horn Jr. and where you think he fits in and where he's drafted?
Yeah, thanks, man. I'll start with the undrafted conversation. Are you talking specifically a quarterback?
All players.
All players. I will go ahead and start at quarterback. I'll give you some other ones though. Seth Hennigan out of Memphis. He's a local kid. I think he's worthy of a draft pick.
Then right.
But I think he could also slip to the undrafted market. He was a guy that was at Dallas Day. He was throwing in that event. He was alongside Braden Shager, who is a Highland Park grad just from up the street. He was also throwing in that event. And then Cowboys quarterbacks coach Steve Shimko attended the pro day of Graham Mertz at Florida. And, that's a guy that battled injury pretty bad going back to his last couple of years, going back to Wisconsin even. But with that injury is probably a situation where he's not drafted. And so that's another name that I think to keep a look at. Looking at some other positions, man, I see Marcus Yarn's name get thrown around a lot from Delaware. And I think he's worthy of a draft pick, but in looking around and kind of seeing what the buzz is on him, he could potentially be a guy that's there in that undrafted market. He's a narrow frame, so he leads to inability to fight through contact. But you look at what he can do from an outside zone perspective and a pass catcher in the NFL, I think he would be a fun addition there in your undrafted market if you're looking at a running back position type of situation. I mean, you can make the case that they could add an undrafted player at almost every position just to have that kind of depth, what they've done over the course of the last couple of years and bringing in guys from that undrafted market. There's going to be some talented guys. Steve Linton out of Baylor, that's another local-ish guy that has a ton of experience that would be coming into this situation. I think he's an undrafted type of talent, but there's going to be a lot of fun names. I'm sure everybody on this panel has an undrafted name.
Real quick, if I can pull back the curtain, and those are all great names, Chris Hall, who does a great job in the Cowboys. Matter of fact, the reason why that we were able to get Tony Romo was because of Chris Hall. And Chris does a great job of not, when the scouts, we set the board, and then as the board gets selected at the end of the draft, you're in a situation where the first players they're going to go after are the guys that are still on their draft board. So that's where they start. So anybody in the 6th, 7th round that's on that board still, those are the first calls they're making. And then they have what's called priority free agents after that, and then free agents. So they've got different tiers. But the one thing Chris does is he keeps that board intact. He wouldn't let us move down Tony Romo. So Tony Romo's tag was there in the 5th round. And that's where the focus went right off the jump. And that's why they do a great job with with signing afterwards. Jerry and Steven willing to pay the money, to pay the bonuses to go get these guys. But these are guys that are actually on their draft board. And those are the first guys they're going to go get.
I've got a name I want to add to Nick's list here. You mentioned Seth Hennigan. Can I interest you in one of his top wide receivers during his time at Memphis as well? Rock Taylor. Rock Taylor, 6'1", 4'4", 40, had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage both in 2023 and 2024. He was all conference in the American last year. He's 6'1" change. He's a little bit shorter, but he can play X. He can play outside. He can play him in the slot as well. I think he's kind of a versatile receiver. Great hands, decent route runner. I think there's ways that he would kind of pair with Seth Hennigan overall that I would like to see in the future.
Yeah,
kind of struggles against press coverage. That's one thing that I think he'll struggle in the NFL level with.
The Cowboys, they did have a meeting with him at the Hula Bowl, virtual meeting with him, and then they've had 2 virtual meetings with him since. So they met with him 3 times during the draft process. So
interesting.
That is definitely a guy to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I really like, and he's not going to get drafted, I don't think, but Tarleton State's got a wide receiver, Darius Cooper, that I like a lot. He's 6 feet tall, 215, 4.4 speed, 38-inch vertical. Like, he shows a lot of explosiveness. And to me, the biggest thing about him, he was a first-team All-American at the FCS level for the AP. I mean, he did everything he was supposed to do at his level. It's just the level he plays at, which he was an FCS player. And so I think that there's just going to be questions about competition and things like that, but the upside's all there. He shows NFL traits in terms of his athleticism, and what he put on tape was really encouraging. It's just, as Brian's talked about before, it's the walk-on-water factor. Yeah. If you're at that level, you've got to walk on water. You've got to be absolutely dominant, and if you're not that, then you're probably either going to fall really late or go undrafted. But he's somebody who I think absolutely could be a diamond in the rough.
Do the Cowboys have Horn? I know the question was asked about Horn from Colorado. Do they already have that in Turpin? When you start to talk about a smaller guy,
5'8",
that plays, majority of his plays come from the slot.
Right.
Sure. So
he might be a slot-only player.
Yeah.
Can also return. It's return specialist as well. Has the speed. I think he absolutely would be very Turpin-like, and I think he's another undrafted guy. Yeah. Because of the size.
You mentioned slot-only player, and when Brian mentioned earlier coaching staff influencing the way you draft and some of the parameters you have, that's going to be a shift from McCarthy to Schottenheimer. So McCarthy does not like slot-only players, was really against generally taking those sort of players. Schottenheimer's a little different. Schottenheimer, I think, is okay with, all right, if that's the only place you play, I'm fine still with what you can contribute to the team and find other different things for you to do. So that's one area where you'll see a shift. If they were a slot-only player in the past, it was unlikely McCarthy was going to want them to take him.
There's a second Cavante Turpin in this draft. His name is Silas Bolden from Texas.
Oh, okay.
Is another guy that undrafted free
the
agent,
Oregon State transfer?
Oregon State transfer.
Yeah.
Where you from?
Texas. Come on, man.
We're 43 minutes in, and he brought up a Texas
Honestly,
player.
you made it longer than I thought.
you.
Who hit the over-under there, boys?
Yeah. No,
We're still going on my Miami one, by the way.
And look, we got a ball knower in the front row in the Arch Manning.
Got an Arch Manning
jersey.
We did say to wear your jersey, so those that showed up and wore a jersey.
And we got another Longhorn in the back. This is great. This is incredible. But yeah, so Silas Bolden, I've got him as an undrafted free agent. But I don't know, since you have Cavante Turpin already and you just paid him, I don't know if you necessarily need another one. But if he's a return specialist only type of guy, I wouldn't hate it whatsoever. He's pretty tough for his size, too. He took some licks in the college football playoff and was able to hold on through it. You look at the Arizona State game, was one of his games where he got clobbered pretty good and was just able to hold on to the ball.
All right, let's hear from Dak Prescott.
My name's Ryan. I drove over 2 hours from Mineral Wells to be here tonight.
Very nice.
Appreciate
Commitment,
it,
man. We appreciate you.
Love y'all show. Voch, Brian. I watch every single thing that y'all do and love the draft. I thought it was interesting that the Cowboys have been top secret with their 30 visits this year, and I'm just curious if there's somebody they're trying to hide that on draft night at 12 or 44 we could be shocked, stunned, or even pissed at the pick. And so who do you think the name that could be? And then, Brian, you said you weren't going to get mad this year no matter what.
I'm not getting mad.
Lies.
What's the one player that could get you the closest? That's all I got for
I'm not going to get mad. I'm too old to get mad now. I'm way too old to get mad.
I feel like I don't believe that.
I don't either.
No, you watch. I'm gonna
Very
be in control.
nice and
All
calm.
right, are you?
I might
are you-
have a Karloftis moment though.
Are you?
I like
I'm
that.
Karloftis.
Are you gonna? Are you gonna utter the words? This team doesn't care about what we think. That's usually 3-4 times a draft.
Yeah,
3-4 times a round.
that's day 3, right? When I do that, they don't care about what I think. Last time I cared about what I thought was 2005.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a player in mind with the 12 or 44 that they're hiding?
That's
Could
probably
Josh
like
could Josh
Michael or
Simmons be
something.
one?
Michael or Will Johnson, maybe.
I don't know if there's any names that have been reported that would at 12 or 44 that
Yeah.
would be like I don't
Woo,
think there's any
that's
that are
out of nowhere?
mind-boggling. Yeah, I don't think anything would
Carson
blindside
Swessinger.
you.
Can we
12?
talk? Can we? No, 44.
Oh,
44.
okay.
Visit guy, 30 visit guy. Can
Yeah.
we talk about Carson Swessinger? Carson
Linebacker
Swessinger,
from
linebacker from
UCLA.
UCLA. I think he's Sean Lee, and
Man.
I just got a feeling the Cowboys love him like I love him.
They do.
What you say, Bobby Belt?
They do. No, they like Swessinger a lot.
Why you smiling, Bobby Belt? The Cowboys like Carson Swessinger. Is there a chance that linebacker Carson Swessinger is a 30 visit guy, but he's our 44th overall pick?
It's potential. Linebackers coach Borgonzi worked him out at his pro day. That's certainly one. Another one that I think Cowboys like as much as you guys down the line is Josh Simmons. So that could be another one.
There we
Why
go.
you say that? Because I love Josh Simmons.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
They listen to you.
That's the best tackle in
Hit
the
me up
draft.
Voch is gonna dance.
I might dance. Now they get Josh.
Yeah, that's
Get
one.
both of 'em.
Maybe in a trade back scenario, who knows? But
Okay.
By the way, I found the video of Voch reacting to CeeDee Lamb, and it was incredible.
Can you send me that link?
Yeah, please.
I got a lot of followers that day.
Go ahead and put that in the group chat.
I think he just flew back in his chair, and like I've never seen a chair bend back that far with how excited he was.
This is why it's exciting. If you find the video, right, I'm just counting it down. I say, okay, San Fran's going to take like a D tackle or something. Okay, they're going to look at Judy and say, oh, the route runner's better than CD. And you actually see me going, and they go Jerry Judy. Okay, cool. And then it's Raiders. All right, we know the Raiders going to do. They're going to take the fast guy. And they took the fast
They
guy.
took the fast guy.
Yeah.
And I say, CD Lamb better not be on the board when we there. And he's there. And we took him, and I fell out of my chair.
It's amazing.
Fell out of your chair. You almost broke your camera slamming on the
That
desk
camera
here.
was already broke. I was. That's a different era in my content days. Man. Sorry.
I'll say, just going back to Swessinger too, depending on if they view Jalen Walker as more of a hybrid, they view potentially Jihad Campbell as a guy who's more of a hybrid if they think he's got edge rushing ability. If you're just talking about pure linebacker, like I think that there is a chance that that's their top linebacker if you just look at pure linebacker position.
Even over a guy like Jihad Campbell, who's kind of in that
If-
same thought process.
Just depending on if they view Campbell as more edge linebacker hybrid.
You know,
if they just look at that's the position you play, linebacker.
Because there's a lot of hype around Jihad Campbell over these last couple
I think
of weeks.
Campbell's above Swessinger, but if you just talk about pure linebacker play, not ask him to do anything else, then I think there's a chance Swessinger's one for
I
them.
think you have to be concerned about some of the stuff with Campbell's injuries, though. You know, shoulders, knees. There's
Lingering
things.
things.
Yeah, but we've done this for a long time now. Alabama linebackers and that Nick Saban administration, and those linebackers were banged up. It always seemed like there was always knee problems, shoulder problems, and all that. They're all really big hitters, you know. But yeah, if you're thinking about Campbell, and if you see him slide a little bit, that might be some of the reasons why. Some of the medical stuff is you have to work on.
Schwessinger's a hell of a player, though.
Yeah.
1-year starter, but his best football is ahead of him. You talk about instincts. That guy's got him.
Yeah.
How are we doing, Tony Romo?
My name's Aaron from Sherman, Texas, and I have a couple different players I was going to ask you all about. One of them is one that I'm interested in just because I've watched a lot of his games, and so I'm kind of curious about, which is Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The second one, and this is more because now he's with the same team, but part of the reason why I'm curious about this one is one of my best friends, like that, he played with his dad on a semi-pro team, which he's with the same team, but Billy Bowman, the safety.
Ooh.
So I'm kind of curious about both of them and what y'all thought, especially like as maybe late round or undrafted. Just
Awful
kinda curious.
Yeah.
Why, because they went to OU?
Says the Texas guy.
No, I'm just kidding. Anybody got? I can go first.
I mean, you can take Stutzman. I'll take Bowman.
Yeah, so Stutzman is a guy who was incredibly productive at Oklahoma. If he doesn't one of their top 5 leaders in tackles over the time at Oklahoma history, I'd be shocked. That was a huge get for their defense when he came back for his last season. Not the most athletic guy, but he just has a knack for getting guys to the ground, and so I think you can appreciate that from a football standpoint. And then Billy Bowman is really interesting in the late rounds. I mean, this is a guy who was initially committed to Texas in high school, then flipped to Oklahoma, was kind of a staple of that secondary, and really held it down over there for the most part. Really athletic kid, can kind of do everything for you. He adds the return element to the game. He can do that. He did that a little bit in his days at Denton Ryan, so he's a local Dallas area guy. So 2 good kind of value late round guys I think that you could be looking at there.
Bowman, I've heard some day 2 buzz about.
Yeah, I got Bowman in the 3rd.
I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah.
He's kind of a right place at the right time guy.
Man, he's always around the ball.
I mean, you can watch the Texas game and the overthrows with Quinn Ewers in that day.
He's just a playmaker.
Interception, stuff like that.
Which one?
Tommy was getting a
Which
soft
one?
drink that day.
What was the final score?
I'm just kidding. But I'll say this, just talking about the linebackers with Stutzman, and I don't know if my guys, I don't think we've talked about this as a group. There's kind of a pocket of those linebackers that are kind of old school looking, like Bill Parcells would love these guys, like these big, tall, kind of like, do they cover well?
Kobe King.
Yeah,
Buchanan.
there's a group,
Jack
Paul,
Kaiser,
King,
a couple of those guys.
Stutzman, Simon. They're all in that kind of that pocket together. So if you're looking for one of those old throwback giant, New York Giant, big body linebackers, there's probably that 4th round has got probably 5 of them if you want those guys that play. And I think Stutzman's in that group with these guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'd take Teddy Buchanan probably over all of them out of Cal.
He's probably a round earlier.
Yeah, I've got him in the 3rd, but I'm with you on Stutzman. I got him in the 4th. Billy Bowman Jr., I'm probably biased because I got to cover him at Denton Ryan. I just love the kid, man. I mean, he's just a playmaker. You mentioned he's always around the football, plays with no fear. He's just small. That's the biggest issue with Billy Bowman Jr. He's a tiny guy, but I got him in the 3rd. Somebody's going to get a gem with Billy Bowman Jr. How are we doing, sir? I love the jersey. Is this Tony Dorsett?
It is 77 rookie jersey.
That is beautiful.
Look at that.
Road jersey. Hey, good evening, guys. I'm a big fan of the fan. My name is KT McDonald. Big fan. Bobby, Below the Belt is my favorite segment on the fan.
Don't lie to me.
I'm in the
In
car
your face,
every day
Wolchuk.
dropping my son off, and after the commercial with the, I think it's the Chevy commercial, it comes right on at 8:40. So the intro, I love it. Voch, I'm a huge fan. It's nice to see you with mainstream media. So I'm loving that you're here in Dallas now and working with Bryan. And then lastly, Bryan, I love what you're doing in terms of promoting diversity within the media and how you actually just give back as much as you do from your knowledge.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate
big
that.
fan, sir. 2 quick questions.
I just made a putt at the Masters.
Two quick questions, right? So I'm under the theory, what if the Cowboys throw us a curveball? And we lost Zach Martin. You got BB. What if you move him back to guard? And then you go in the 3rd round, draft a center. Give me an idea, Voch, other line guys. Who's the top centers and who could be available in the 3rd round? And then real quick before you answer that, Voch, I got one last question just put out there and I'll move out of the way. Bryan, I got to pick a fight with you about Amari and Hampton.
Okay.
I still think he can be a 1st round guy. I think he can be DeMarco Murray without the knee injury. I think he can also be Terrell Davis with a little bit more speed. Ooh. And then lastly, what if you can draft Eric Dickerson? Because Eric Dickerson was not elusive. The only thing I've heard you complain about Omari is he's not elusive enough. So what if you could draft Eric Dickerson in the 12th round? Hampton is that guy.
I like the DeMarco Murray comparison, and then you took it to a whole nother level. I was like, yeah, cool, and then I just got hit with a right cross. Hampton, like I said, I like Johnson from Iowa myself, and if you when you see my stack on and when it gets posted on 1053thefan.com, you'll see this. You'll see I had a real difficult time with Johnson, Hampton, and Henderson. I mean, they are like, it's like a player separating each. And I really, really struggle with that. I think the thing, like I say, when I first saw Hampton run, I said, this is DeMarco Murray running the ball. This is the way that he, DeMarco, not always elusive, But the thing about it was he'd take the ball, go through, and then make a cut and then go. I don't have a problem with Hampton. If you were to tell me any one of those guys, Johnson, Hampton, Henderson at 44, I'm totally okay with that. I don't have any problem with those running backs. I think you're going to get to a level where, like I say, we're Genty and then those three guys, and then to me, I've got in the next, it's like I got those guys as like, just to be simple here, very good. Yeah. And then you get to the third round, you got good. Give me the opportunity to take very good. And if Hampton is one of those guys, I have absolutely no problem with that.
As far as your O-line question goes, this isn't the best year to go look for a center, and I would personally be hurt if I looked at BB and said, all right, all this hard work you learned being a center, snapping, stepping, and all this difficulty that comes with playing center, all right, just go back and play guard. I think that'll hurt me personally. But if you did move BB back to guard and you had to find a center, Willie Lampkin is a guy that I'm always advocating for. He's 5'10", and I don't know how y'all feel about 5'10" offensive linemen. We probably shouldn't be looking for shorter guys playing offensive. I get it. But the first thing they teach you in football school is low man wins. And he's always the low man, and that's what he uses.
And he wins a lot.
He whoops ass.
Yeah, he does. His
film
is as good as any short offensive lineman you could possibly have.
Well,
we talked about the small school guys, right?
Yeah.
You gotta walk on water.
Yeah.
When you're 5'10" and you've got that tag next to you, you better walk on water.
He skips on water.
He skips all over.
He's a skipper.
I mean, he is a phenomenal film player. He didn't even get an invite to the combine. You talk about being personally hurt. Yeah. I was personally hurt by that because he's a good player.
The question was also asked of the curveball. Mm-hmm. Tell these guys why you then would pick Booker. If you don't move BB. Yeah.
But pick a guard.
Pick a guard.
Take Booker. Get powerful. Yeah. Be strong.
I mean, if you really want a curveball at 12.
I'm a Cowboy fan that was born in 1992, you know what I'm saying, 33 years old. And the last couple of years of my Cowboy fandom, I've dealt with some Connors, with some, Biadishes or whatever, like just stalemate guys. When I hear all the old gentlemen in the crowd say, boy, those days when the wall was just whooping feet. I wasn't around when the wall was just whooping feet, So once we moved on from Travis and Tyron's gone now and Zach is gone now. I think the best shot you have to get back powerful to take care of both A gaps. It's the first thing they teach you in football school. Deal with A gap. Get a strong dude and put him next to a strong dude and put him next to another strong dude. Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, and Tyler Booker next to each other. You kidding me? And then we live in this world. This makes me smile so big. When we go against the Eagles and Jalen Carter lines up against Tyler Smith and I feel okay about that rep, But then Jalen Carter go line up against somebody else, and I start to feel nervous a little because he whoops those guys, right? Get Tyler Booker, put him at right guard, and you kind of got this, okay, I can deal with the Eagles' guys. I can deal with the Washington guys. I can deal with the Giants guys, right? No matter who you 49ers, whoever they end up, getting to go and play for them, if you line up against the Vikings spent a lot of money at 1 tech and 3 tech. You can deal with those guys now. And just because you're good at left guard don't mean you good at right guard. So if you want a curveball, take Tyler Booker. We'll have a party.
That's a curveball right there.
Take Tyler Booker.
Booker.
Really quickly on Willie Lampkin, I've asked several different. I can't find a scout to tell me they think he gets drafted. It's just the size limitations are too much.
So going back to the undrafted free agent conversation,
Terry Long was picked from the Steelers and from East Carolina way back in the day when I was sitting in rooms, and he was a 5'11". Played
guy.
A few years, but that is such an outlier for you right there at that size. But the film is incredible. Yeah. The film really
is.
Where I'm just curious as a panel, where is your highest rated center, a true center? Because mine's in the fourth.
Seth McLaughlin.
Where do you have him? The
third round.
Third round. So I have him in the fourth round.
I think he's Jason Kelsey.
Wow. And you have him in the third?
McLaughlin?
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, wow. I mean,
you watch
10 games you want to Remington.
We all marvel at the way that Junkins and Henderson and all those guys run the ball and stuff. Watch the guy cutting defenses in half. Mm-hmm. Watch the guy reaching front side. Watch, they have really good linemen there. I mean, him and Jackson, all those guys, they were all. But you watch that center, he could second level. He could get the wide threes. I mean, I think he's got some Kelsey to him.
Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. You guys have him as a center or a guard?
I got him as a center.
I got him as
Center, and he's my number one in the
Guard for me.
third.
I have him as my top center, back end of the second. So that would be my top center. If I was also looking around, another name I would like to throw out is Jonah Monheim out of USC.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Really
I struggled with
talented,
that one.
versatile guy that has played in multiple spots during his time in Los Angeles.
Big bodied guy, too.
Yeah, and he could play any of the 3 interior spots going to the next level. He's a talented guy too.
What's the kid Wilson? I know we're here at center talk. all of a
Jared
sudden.
Wilson, Georgia.
Jared Wilson,
But
Georgia.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Some good, some bad. Doesn't look like he's experienced. Doesn't play like he's kind of loses that connection with his guys.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have a little trouble with him?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, me neither.
I have Jake Majors over him from Texas.
Okay,
I do too.
Yeah,
I had a
I like the
problem with that.
Well,
experience
Tommy's
factor.
got Jake Majors in the first.
Center one.
Yeah. You might as well take him at 12, right, Tommy?
That's right.
I've got 15 first-round grades. They're all Texas players.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Schottenheimer's entertained a little bit with some questions about BB moving to guard, but I think that's more we keep all options open. I don't think they're going to move him. I think he's staying at center.
Well, and if you want to go guard second round, Jonah from Zona,
I would be so down.
put him at right.
I'm not a fan of Jonah from Zone.
You don't like Jonah? I'm shocked that you don't like Jonah
I
from
figured
Zona.
he would be the guy.
I
you
am
would like.
stunned.
Watching him, I just didn't see a guy that got a bunch of push. He's a stalemate guy. He's a hat on the hat guy to me, but I don't think he's athletic enough to be hat on hat guy. If you're gonna be hat on hat, don't whoop you guy.
Yeah.
I at least need you to be a super athlete. So the
Yeah.
center from Ohio State, at least he's an athlete.
Yeah.
But he doesn't whoop folk like that. Jonah just didn't whoop bodies like that. So I just wasn't a fan.
If you're going to be pin and pull type of a team, or you're going to play the outside leads and stuff like that, I don't know if Jonah is that guy for you. I think in a small
Heavy-footed.
area, I think he's really
Yeah, he's good in the phone booth.
But when it has to extend, I think there's some problems there.
I think as a pass protector, though, you're talking about run.
Oh,
run
they
game.
brought him in. I mean,
his
he's
pass
a 30
protection is as
no,
good as
they brought him
anybody
in
in
as
the
a
draft.
30
I think he's
guy.
fine. I think he's fine.
But man, I would say if for pin and pull stuff.
Yeah, you're
outside,
right. Because
Connor Colby from Iowa was much better at all those things, in my personal opinion.
I got notes against K-State that he did struggle to get around the edge. And then Membu, if he's there at 12, I like Membu as a guard as well. I think that could be a guy that's an athlete, 20 years old. You play him at right guard. That'd be awesome to me.
Sure.
I'd be in on that. Okay, how are you doing, sir?
Well, hey, I just want to say I'm a big fan. I moved here from Southern California 2 years ago. Been listening to the fan for a long time. Big fan of Bryan and all the guys at the Star, and that's why I moved here. So I actually live at the Star. So my question is, for the last 2.5 years now, this has been my second draft, being at the Star. And being at the Star, we get to see a lot of the kids working out. A lot of the Texas kids come and work out. And so last year, I was there with some of my buddies, ex-linemen for the Cowboys, and these guys are still big. And we were hanging out with Sweat, the big nose guard.
Yeah.
And that's the guy I wanted because we haven't had a nose guard in 50 years. We can't stop the run. And we were all hanging out with him. And let's just say he made our ex-linemen look small.
Oh, yeah.
And some of these ex-linemen are Pro Bowl guys. One of them, has a gold jacket. And we asked him, we said, who is the best offensive tackle that you go up against? He said, without a doubt, he goes, the one guy that kicks my butt every day is Banks.
Yeah.
And the other day, saw Banks. Banks is a man. Banks is a man.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went up and we talked to him. We told him the story. We said, your buddy Sweat last year said, you're the man. You guys, he goes, oh, yeah, we give it to each other all the time. So my question is, we all know the Cowboys need a running back. There's not a starting running back on this team. We got a bunch of guys that are going to sell insurance in a few months. We have no running backs. But talking to my buddies that are ex-linemen for the Cowboys, all say you can't have a running game unless you have a line.
Sure.
We have nothing at right tackle. Don't really have much at left tackle. We have a stud at left guard. And we have a good young center. My question is, if somehow the Cowboys were to drop back a few picks, we go from 12 to 16 to maybe 17, could the Cowboys, if he's there, possibly look at Banks and taking a look at Tyler Guyton, who's not a real big physical, he doesn't look like a left tackle. He looks like a small forward. Would there be any way of taking Tyler Guyton and moving him to right tackle where he's played his whole career, move Banks to left tackle, and then start building out that way? And then in the second, third, fourth round, we go get our running back. Is that something that maybe could happen?
Yeah, that's a really solid question. If I could start, fellas, here on this one. A couple of things I want to point on with that. One, Kelvin Banks was a 30-visit guy.
Right.
So it's someone they are taking a hard look at.
Right.
He's a dominant player.
He's
you
huge.
You talk
huge.
about before the college football playoff, and he had a couple of bad games in the playoff.
Right.
He's a top 10 player, and
Yeah.
I think we talk about him being the number one alignment off the board a lot more than we
Okay.
already do. As far as the idea of moving him to left tackle, Guyton to right tackle, I think this is kind of an overarching thing on the Terrence Steele conversation. I don't think there's a player on this roster that benefits more from this coaching change than Terrence Steele.
Yes.
And the reason for that is Clayton Adams and what he's going to be bringing from a pin and pull perspective.
Okay.
Brian Schottenheimer, his intention and also his knowledge of what he has had with Terrence Steele, I think is really going to benefit his game. I think Terrence Steele just bought 2 more years with this
Really?
team than he had
Okay.
prior to this coaching change. That's my opinion. I could be wrong on that, and we could be right back here next year, and y'all can say I'm an idiot. But I think Terrence Steele is going to be fine at that right tackle spot. Now, granted, you still got to figure out right guard. Could Kelvin Banks be a right guard?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would be a lot of moving. But if that's a type of player that is there for you at like a 17 or an 18,
Right.
I mean, he's a guy I have a first-round grade on. And if I'm at 17 or 18, there's probably not many first-round grades left. If I'm sticking to my board, then I'm picking the guy.
I think fixing Steele or making sure somebody was going to come in here and work with Steele and get him back to where he was, I think that was a big part of what they were trying to figure out in terms of rebuilding the offensive line. Okay. So I think they're committed to him. I think that was probably one of the under-discussed storylines with the old coaching staff was Mike Solari didn't like Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele felt like he didn't get a lot of the coaching that he wanted from Solari. So I think that was a big topic for them when they moved on from Solari. I think was just the stunting of Terrence Steele's development. I will say Banks moving him inside at guard I think would be more likely than drafting him to play tackle.
Okay.
Right guard?
Yeah, and I think there's some question though about for this team. I think there's some question about Banks finishing, finishing plays and then being on the interior and being able to do that. To the Guyton part of it, I think it's been a little oversold about Guyton playing right naturally because Guyton started, what was he, tight end or defensive tackle when he got to TCU?
Tackle.
He was defensive tackle when he got to TCU. And he started at right tackle that year at Oklahoma. But, I mean, that was, like it's not like he spent his, whole life there. So, I mean, I think the Cowboys felt like the footwork is there to be a left tackle. That's what we heard from the scouts on day 3 last year was they felt like the footwork and the hands were that of a left tackle. And that it's not like he'd spent so much time at right tackle that he had developed habits that were going to be really difficult to change.
Yeah, but is he big enough? Because in person, he's not a dominating-looking guy.
He's
not.
What is he? 6'6", or 6'6", 320.
Guyton?
Yeah,
Guyton just needs to fill out.
Yeah,
I feel like if he can add
he's a
15,
giant.
20 pounds, he would certainly look the part. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And just one guy for you guys to look up. I forget the kid's name, but this kid could be the stud of the entire draft. He's a running back from Cal Davis. This kid catches, runs. This
the
kid,
one-handed
Talk to me.
this kid in the 4th, 5th round could be the next number 1 back in all of football. This
Eric
kid
Dickerson?
is special.
You just became my favorite person in here. Thank
He
you.
is special.
Nick, give us a scouting report.
Land Larison.
Yeah, Land Larison. We brought him up on
He's
the
been
show
getting a lot of
last
Twitter
week.
love lately.
Yeah, 2,300 total yards last year in 2024. When we talk about FCS guys needing to walk on water, we had a skip on water. Yeah. This guy was just hovering above the water. He had a hoverboard above that water.
He was flying?
He had a
Yeah, he
hoverboard
was.
above that?
He could be a 3-down back, 6 foot 215, early down physicality and ability to easily get into the second level. He's got the receiving ability, 62 receptions last year. He's got the pass protection. You can deploy him in the slot. I mean, this is a really talented player. Thank you for bringing him up.
Nick
Why are you
Harris.
smiling so big?
My man.
Just because I didn't expect to talk about it tonight.
Biggest
Yeah,
I've ever
that's-
seen you
that's
smile.
Yeah,
That's
I'll take
awesome.
that. That's a dub for me.
What is up? How are you, sir?
Hey, fellas, my name's Kevin. Let me take you back. 2021 NFL Draft. I had the TV on mute. Didn't want to watch or listen to that. Draft show on my computer. Voch's live stream on my phone.
Appreciate you.
I believe it was 2nd round. Draft Kelvin Joseph. Voch might have went a little crazy.
In a good or bad way?
Action may
Not
be
as bad as
regrettable
Kelvin Joseph.
right now, but CeeDee Lamb dropped to 17. Right, Kyle, did you run for him?
I ran a half marathon for him. Yeah.
You ran a half marathon for him.
I made a bet and lost because I didn't think he would drop, and I didn't think they'd take him. So
right, so teams suck at drafting.
Ran to from my apartment to the Star and back.
What's a player that could drop to the second, third round that should not be there? And I'll throw it out first. I might be the only one in the room, but I have Ibuka as my top receiver. I'm a high floor guy.
You got a good eye there with the Emeka Egbuka. That's one of the safest players in the entire draft.
Yeah. I think that could be a guy who could fall, though. If you're talking about a potential fall, he shouldn't. He should be a top 20 pick in this draft. But if you're talking about a guy because he doesn't have the high upside, and I know Brian loves that conversation of ceiling versus floor, he doesn't. The part of Emeka Egbuka is the fact that he has the floor.
Right.
But some of these teams may say, okay, I'm going to take this guy who has more traits and production over a guy like Egbuka. That shouldn't happen. Teams suck at drafting, and at the same time, it's going to be one of those conversations down the line. But I think he would be a possibility.
Let me just say, Kelvin Joseph was good enough to be a second-round pick. He just wanted to be a rapper, and he didn't want to. And look, me watching film.
He wanted to be a lot of things.
Just me watching film, how am I supposed to know that he wanted to be a rapper in real life? You know what I mean? So I can't be wrong about that.
Was he a first-round player for you?
No, sir. No? Second-round player for me. But, just talking about a guy that's probably going to fall in the draft that has no business falling in the draft. Tommy, why don't you tell us about our safety from Texas? That's the best safety in the class. There.
Andrew Makuba. I think if he does fall, I think it's going to be because he might be too small for some teams.
Sure.
And it's a shame that people feel that way because and I'm glad that Voch is with me on this. This is a guy who flies all over the field. There we go. Now we're rolling. This is a guy who flies all over the field. Even at his time at Clemson, it just didn't really pop as much. When he transferred to Texas, they needed him to pop in that secondary, and he did. This is a guy who was all over the field. If you want to watch some of the best safety tape that you'll see from this class, turn on the Texas-Michigan game from earlier this season. He played fantastic against Michigan. He was great down the stretch, had the game-winning interception against Arizona State. We talked about Billy Bowman being a right guy at the right place moment type of player. Andrew Makuba is the same way, and I feel like if he takes the next step in the run game and kind of being able to fill that part of his game out, which he's still a pretty solid run defender, you're talking about a guy who's going to be in the league for 10, 12 years.
He'd be the first Cowboy in history to be born in Zimbabwe. Not
That's
that anyone
cool.
cares about
It's pretty
that.
amazing.
What about a guy that might slide is our East Carolina corner?
I was going to bring about that, like a 76 type situation, because the more mocks I see, the more I see him at the top of that.
76?
The more I see him at the top of that third. Savon Ravel, and that's that would be a surprise to me. But the more mocks that I see from people that I trust in the industry have him at the top of that third round, and I wonder how much the medicals are really concerning teams, and if there is more to the medicals than we don't know.
I talked to a couple of trainers and a couple of doctors about him because that's a guy I have a first-round grade on. And the medical for that was fine. Everything was fine. There was nothing like, hey, you don't have to worry about this guy. Dr. Cooper, Dan Cooper, who's the Cowboys team doctor, has done 5 different surgeries for kids in this draft, so you don't worry about those kids. But I think this is a guy that if you – say you do grab one of these wide receivers at their spot at 12, and you turn around at 44 and hit this kid, now you're cooking. In my opinion, because I think this kid, if he didn't hurt his knee, he'd be the best corner in this draft.
Agreed.
The 1 year of starting experience in the American Conference, does that concern you?
No, not really.
I really like Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, and I think he's going to be there at 44 in all likelihood, and that to me is a guy who should go much higher than that. And so Tyleik Williams, to me, the defensive tackle from Ohio State, it's a big one. And if you want to look at another defensive tackle, I think Kenneth Grant's probably going to go lower than I would want him to.
Ooh, really?
Bobby Bell, I don't
Can
want to
Grant
fight,
get
man.
you at 44?
Hold on, Bryan Broaddus. Hold on, Bryan Broaddus.
Don't do
Bryan,
this.
hold on, please. Hold on, please.
Oh no, we're gonna get a Williams fight here.
I don't know. Just hold on. Bobby Bell.
Yep.
Where were you at in our draft show group chat or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I was on the draft show doing my thing. I was like, hey man, Tyleik Williams, the dude, and Zach.
It was
and,
Zach, yeah.
And damn Tommy here.
Well, because Alfred
they
Collins is
jumping
just a
on
better
me.
player.
Alfred Collins ain't a better.
Alfred
Bobby Bell.
Collins over Tyleik Williams
Hold on.
all day, every day.
Zach, hold on, man. I'm talking to Bobby Belt, please.
Oh, okay.
Please. Bobby, who do you have on your stack higher? You got Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, or you got who?
Alfred Collins. Don't be disrespectful now. From Texas.
I've got Tyleik Williams higher.
Thank you, Bobby Belt.
No, and I'm a Texas fan, but Tyreek Williams to me was.
I'll third that.
Look to me. Thank you. There we
3?
go.
Tommy, I would be 4. Smartest ones on the panel here.
The way people talk about Luther Burden from
Wrong,
Missouri.
wrong.
The way people talk about Luther Burden is how I feel about Tyreek Williams.
Mm.
Where it's like, was 23 better than 24? Yeah. Like was 24 not quite what you'd want out of him? Yeah. But to me, I think I see enough consistently with him that I said that's somebody who is really versatile to be able to use on the defensive line. Somebody who, the way that, he is, to me, such a great mental processor at stuff with screens, draw plays, different things like that. He sees things really quickly. He's able to disengage from blocks. I love Tyreek Williams. I think he's really, really good. And I think a lot of the issues that he does have are just about expanding his toolbox.
What does the league say about him, Bobby Bell? Let's just keep talking about.
I think the league.
What does the league?
I think the league thinks less of him than I do. I don't think the league. I don't think the league thinks poorly of him.
the
I
league
think
knows.
he's.
All right.
I think he's somewhere in that range, early second round,
Seems like a
towards
draft.
Dallas's pick.
I'm just saying, man.
Got him in the
Wolchuk and Tommy loudly jumped me about this Alfred Collins, Tyreek Williams thing. I just think Tyreek is such a dude. And I think
No, I like Tyreek Williams. I just like Alfred Collins more.
Where'd Alfred Collins go, Tommy?
It's not to down Tyreek Williams. He's a good player. I've got him in the second
Alfred
round.
Collins go?
Yeah.
Where'd
But I
Alfred
like
Collins
Alfred
go?
Collins more. I would just take Alfred Collins before him.
love you, Zach. Appreciate
All
you.
right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. What do we got, man? How are you, Matthew? What's up, Matt?
I'm good. I'm
Hey,
good. How you
Matthew.
gentlemen doing?
Good. Good to see you.
Fan of all of you, Tommy and Nick, my guys. We came in the media game together in 2018 and worked with you guys in 2019. Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Yes, sir.
Week 2
You're right, baby.
of the season.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That was a good time. Voch, thank you for coming out. Broaddus, you the man.
Thank you.
You also, Bobby.
Thank you.
I don't care what they say about you. I love you. So I have a couple of questions, and I may get fired by some for this, but I'm asking anyway. Wishful thinking on my part, because I really want to bolster this defensive tackle room some more. Yes, sir. What would it take to go up and get Mason Graham? And then number 2.
Good question.
He made me forget my question.
Defensive
That's how good of a
tackle room,
question
something
it
to do
was.
with that?
Going up to take Mason Graham, number 1, and then number 2, Ollie Gordon. I feel like he's a James Conner clone. Where can we get him?
Okay.
I'll speak to Gordon first. I think Gordon's probably going to be a third-round guy, third, fourth is where I would guess. But I mean, I know I've asked about Ollie Gordon before because of somebody in this room that's a big Oklahoma State fan and loves Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon, I think general thought from a lot of people is that's just consistent, steady, all-around, three-down type of back that the league is fond of. It's just it's such a stacked running back class. It kind of depends on the ice cream question that Bryan talks about. People like different flavors. So I think Ollie Gordon probably, if you were going to try to get him, probably third or fourth round.
Mason Graham.
Where would you have to go get him? Probably 5, right?
Yeah, you probably
That's
got to
where
go top
you'd have
5.
to go up and get him.
Yeah.
Is at Jacksonville at 5. I think there's a chance they take Genty, but then that would throw things off. But let's just say, to be safe, you'd have to go up to 5. On the trade chart that I'm looking at, it's 500 points. Yeah. And your second-round pick is only worth 460. So it would take your second-round pick, and it would probably take a day 3 pick, too, to try and piece it together and go up and get him.
I say do it.
That is, there
you go.
That's the red flag alert right there. Yeah.
I think that's a move they need to make. Package those picks to go up and get him because he is an impact player, and he can change your culture as well. Because we also need to change that. We need to work towards changing the culture. That's part of it. Get him, let him anchor that front 7. And also, are we giving up on Brock Hoffman at right guard?
Not at all.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I think that's the man. I think he's ready to step in.
He could be.
Are the Cowboys giving up on Brock Hoffman? No.
Is Voch Lombardi?
Would I like to move on from Brock? Look, no, dude, man. Shouts out to man. Brock's done nothing but his job. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to Brock. I just would like more powerful guards. That's all. I think Brock does a really good job as hat on hat guy, letting guys kind of read or whatever. But I just prefer bodies to move. And I think sometimes I get tired of watching Brock fall on people that's falling down already, and him getting up like he knocked them down. You know what I'm saying? To where if you watch like Booker or something from Alabama, Booker moves children from point A to point B, makes them fall, then he falls on them.
Hoffman will get better?
Hoffman might be as good as he's going to be right now. I hope he does. You know what I'm saying? But I think Hoffman is as good as a interior offensive line depth piece as you can get. You know, just a guy that can play the guards for you, that can play the center for you. I love that for him. I think he's fantastic. And I think the Cowboys should have leaders that start, leaders that's backups.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Leaders on teams. They should have all types of leaders. But boy, Tyler Booker at right guard to be a much better leader.
Something we don't ever know until
Tyrone Crawford was a leader. He wasn't crazy like that. Sorry, Bill.
Something we don't always know until we get into the season and we kind of see how things develop. This is the time of year where we don't know how does the new coaching staff feel about different guys at different positions. Like I said, there was a few years ago, Joe Philbin loved Terrence Steele, and that was a big leg up for Terrence Steele over Brandon Knight at the time. And he ended up being right. There were a lot of people that were critical of it, myself included, and he ended up getting everything out of it that he could. Coaching change happens, and all of a sudden Mike Solari doesn't like Terrence Steele very much. And now they've got somebody else in here who in theory does like him, and that was a big part of the pitch.
Sure.
So I think for Hoffman, it just is going to come down to does he have fans? Does he have the sponsor in the building, as Brian's talked about before? That's going to be a big thing for his future. But I also think Brock Hoffman, with everything Schottenheimer's talked about with toughness and culture and different things like that, Hoffman is all of that, and he's a unit player. He's not like a standalone great guard, but if you're talking about can he complete a unit or can he serve a role within a unit with some of the toughness and the nastiness, yeah, they just may feel like they can find that with other players who are better.
Understood. Yeah, I think you get upgrades. Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia, I think, is an upgrade. Tyler Booker, if you talked about, it's an upgrade. Donovan Jackson, Ohio State, if you took him at 44, I think that's an upgrade. There's quite a few. Membu, if you were to take him at 12, that's an upgrade right there. You can upgrade over Brock Hoffman, but the agitator that he is, he's a fun player to have on your football team. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here, Matt.
Good to see you, Matt.
Thanks, Matthew.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. My name is Cash.
What's up, Cash?
I just want to say thank y'all for putting this together. It's a lot of people out here that really enjoy the draft process, and just want to say thank y'all for putting this together. From 105.3 The Fan, Dallas Cowboys Radio, Voch, Bryan, I watch y'all every day.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
And
we are back.
We're back.
Okay, so my question is, what Steven has said about the number 2 receiver, needing an explosive number 2 receiver, and, a lot of mocks have tied Tit to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, we don't know how the board is going to fall when it comes to 12. But just say Tit is there at 12. What are the chances that they pick a receiver not named Tit McMillan at 12? Somebody like a Matthew Golden.
That's pretty high.
Somebody that, brings speed, route running, explosiveness. And then another question I have is, what are the chances of Travion Henderson being there at 44?
Yes, sir. I'll start with a much easier question. I don't think Henderson's going to be there at 44.
Yeah, me either.
I think he's a first-round guy, and if he's not, he's going to be one of those names at the top of the second round, because I think there's going to be a run of backs from about 33 to 39-ish. I think he's going to be one of the first ones off the board there. If Henderson's there at 44, that's the one where I do what Voch did with CeeDee Lamb. That would be the pick of the draft.
He reminds me of Tony Pollard, but he just can pass protect better.
Yeah. He's a dangerous weapon.
So why did you want to avoid the Matthew Golden and Tetaroa McMillan question?
I just answered the easier one. Now it's up to y'all.
So Brian had said something last week, and he said something about Jerry and Steven. They're going to bring up Mingo as far as a receiver with size.
They will.
The big-bodied X.
The big body
Golden,
contested
something
catch
you don't
artist.
have. Yeah, absolutely.
When they picked Mozzie Smith, they had a very intense debate in the draft room about, we found out it was Bergeron.
Yeah, Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse.
They had a very intense debate in there with Bergeron. I think if Golden and McMillan are there, you're going to see probably similar type of intense discussion where there are people who I think like McMillan more, there are people who like Golden more, and they're two very different types of skill sets for the receiver position. I think the Mingo factor is interesting because I think the fact that Mingo didn't get on the field consistently at the end of the season, I think was something that really irritated the Joneses. For all the positive things they had to say about the relationship with Mike McCarthy at the end, I think that was one sore subject where they were wondering, why couldn't Jonathan Mingo get on the field after we gave up capital for him? So Mingo's somebody that they are still banking on, and I think when you hear Schottenheimer talk at the meetings in Florida that Nick was at, you hear him mention about how, hey, look, a big part of what our job here as coaches is to get the most out of the guys that are already here and to level those guys up. And I think a big name that you think of instantly when you hear him say that is Mingo.
Yeah. I mean, can we really just judge Mingo because he didn't get the opportunity to play with Dak?
It's true.
He was catching passes from Cooper Rush.
He played his ass off, and if you want to talk in run blocking and some of the things he put on tape,
Yeah,
there
good
was
run
no
blocker.
quitting him. He really gave a lot of effort. Cooper Rush wasn't exactly, I think, a Mingo-friendly quarterback. But I think that's somebody that they're not far removed from thinking was a second-round type of player.
Thank you. I appreciate
All
it.
right, appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. All right, what do we got?
What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
How's it going? Waldo here.
So, Waldo.
First of all, let's give a round of applause for Voch because he's been playing his outfit.
Yeah,
he's got
playing in
three
the
outfits
outfit?
planned,
The
so
outfit.
I saw him get out in the park. I was like, he's ready. He's ready to roll. He's ready to
He's
roll
locked
tonight.
in.
Let's have fun. Your last name's Jones. I want you to look at your board. It doesn't matter who's linked to Dallas. I want you to pick your favorite guy to pick at 12, regardless of need. Who's your first round guys that you look at? Where's your Donovan Ezeraku? If you want to take Mike Green, you can take Josh Simmons. I want you to have fun with it. Your last name's Jones. Need doesn't matter. Who's your guy?
This is where I really hope that the Joneses were more proactive in signing and trading to go and get guys. Like, we had a really competent wide receiver 2 situation, and we could just, okay, we're the Eagles. We got the Eagles roster. We got the best of everything. You can just get anything. I'm getting Josh Simmons, man. I just think Josh is a guy, and I think he's a guy that could be there for us. And I think he's a guy that if he was in last year's class with all those top-tier tackles, I think he's amongst that group of guys. And, you know, nothing against the guys that we have on the roster right now. But if I could get him, I really feel like he's a dude that's going to be playing tackle for you for a long time. But I think everybody on the panel is probably saying they're running back from Boise. But I'll let y'all say.
Yeah, and I agree with Josh. He's my fourth guy. He's my fourth overall player on the board, so I definitely agree.
Now, are we talking realistic?
Yeah,
at
realistic,
12?
yeah. I was going to say Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter.
Yeah, so, and Genty, depending on who you talk to, Genty may not be a realistic one either.
Yeah.
You know, he may be gone
Agreed.
at that point as well.
Oh, there you go.
Good job, Zach.
Way to go, Zach.
We figured it out.
If we're not going Genty, mine is McMillan.
Mine would be McMillan
Ted?
as well.
He's a top 5 player on my board. I think he's Michael Thomas. I think he's going to be that type of talent in the NFL. There's not many All-Pro players in this class, I don't think. That's why there's a limited amount of first-round grades. But I think he's certainly one of those players. I think he's going to be that type of talent in the NFL, even if you do pair him in a receiving core with CeeDee Lamb.
Do y'all think Emeka Buka's a first-round grade for them?
For them? No,
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'll say McMillan's the answer. If you want a different answer, though, of somebody who I don't think he's going to slide, but if some people just have too many questions about, I can't figure out where exactly I want to play him. If you could get down to it, I would love Will Campbell. I really like Will Campbell out of LSU. He's a top 5 player to me. But, I mean, yeah, the guy that I've circled for a while now is Tet McMillan. I mean, you know, Nick brings him up as Michael Thomas. I put in my notes on comp, I put Brandon Marshall. Like, that to me is the type of player he can be. He's a top 3 player. To me, I love the 3 guys at the top that I've graded, and that's Hunter, Genty, and McMillan. And outside of that, their guys are good or that I like, and there's some separation. But to me, those are the 3 that I really love.
I'll give you another one, though. In the second round.
Yeah,
I got you. This team likes to surprise us in the second round. Last year, none of us had Marshawn Nealon going in the second round. Not one mock had not Marshawn Nealon getting there. Who's a pick that wouldn't shock you or would shock you at 44, but it's a realistic shock there? Like a Josh Farmer or Jordan Birch from Oregon.
Carson Swessinger from UCLA.
Schwessinger's a good one.
That would be one at 44. Where linebacker may not be your number 1 need available there, you would still take a really good player.
Or Andrew Makuba. I'd be befuddled.
That'd be a good one.
Makuba would be fun. What up, Rodeo Ron? How are you, sir?
First of all, I think we got someone that's picking up where I left off about
There we
6
go.
weeks ago. Thank you guys for having us here again. And thank God Nico ain't our GM, too. I got to throw that in. He would already traded Micah Parsons for a 2032 pick or something to the Eagles. Anyways, my question is, if you took your mock draft, that you have it, your pick at number 12, you know the Cowboys have only had 3 number 12 picks in the whole franchise history. We won't talk about Danny Noonan, but Jerry Jones had 2 of those picks Alvin Harper, Micah Parsons.
Okay.
The player you have on your mock draft at number 12, could they live up and make an impact on this Dallas Cowboys team like Micah Parsons did a few years ago and like Alvin Harper did in, 92?
That's tough.
If
to live
it's
up
see, this
to.
class is different, man. This class is not as packed as that class Michael was in, where you had Slater up there and all those other guys and J. Chase. So we have to account for inflation with this class. So McMillan to be a guy that we'll be happy
regardless of position.
Regardless of position. So I think the best chance you have of getting a top tier type player that'll get to as close as Mike as you can get is Ted McMillan. That's as close you're gonna get. But all the rest of the guys,
receiver or somebody.
all the rest of the guys, we didn't lose enough games to get Genty and Carter. And them.
Yeah, because Genty would be that guy, but unfortunately, I think Ted McMillan, realistically at 12, would be the only guy that possibly could live up to those expectations.
You can find Alvin Harper. It's going to be really difficult to find Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
With Rodeo Ron, where the F
Where the F you at? How are you, sir? We got another Texas Longhorn.
That's
right.
Folks are from Carolina, so,
Okay.
I got to rep both coasts. Got to rep the coast over there. Hey, they call me the Sethnicity.
Oh, what's up? How you doing?
Went to high school in Broken Arrow, BA Tigers for life. No Trojans in this house. All right, just had to get that out there. I'm a little dude, but and the little dudes kind of get slept on. So I'm all about the sleepers. So I got one sleeper name for you, and then I got a dude that should be talked about a little bit more. I want to know why he's not high on the Cowboys board. First one is Rashawn. Forgot his name. Hold on.
Ridley's a sleeper.
He is a sleeper. Rashawn Baker. All right, he's a running back. I'm taking him late round. We can wait, get a mid-round back like Martinez, something like that. And then get this dude, Rashawn Baker. I want your thoughts on this dude. And then why is my man Jahdae Barron not on the tip of everybody's list for the Cowboys? Why don't we just go ahead and make it happen? DBs for life. Come on.
It's a measure. It is. A
I think it's the size. It's the size with Barron.
It's the thing we talked about early
Come on.
with when we're asking about the position specifics. That there's certain parameters that they live in, and some of these organizations they live with them and they die with them too. If you do watch the tape, this kid. I think this guy. I think he's Trent McDuffie. I really do. When you talk about Barron, I think he's that type of player. But yeah, you live and die with the measurables, and that's what that happens there.
Yeah, I think they just want to play bigger on the outside. But Barron's a hell of a player. I mean, he lit up getting to go against Jeremiah Smith. Said, put me on him. Give me my shot. It was fun to watch. Thank you for the question.
I like your Rashawn Baker pool.
Thank you.
It's from Elon.
However, FCS, walking on water. Is this guy walking on water, in your opinion?
In my opinion.
I think
In my opinion.
probably undrafted guy.
You know what? I will go back and watch the tape just for that. I will.
He's got heart.
He ran a 4.52, so that's something.
There you go.
I mean, that's all I've got on him. We'll figure that out down the line.
How's it going?
Hey, good. My name's Lawrence. I've been a Cowboys fan since 1964.
There you go.
I believe in the lines, the offensive and defensive lines. So if I was drafting in this draft, I would take Simmons and then Jackson as my first two picks. That should make your running game, receivers, and all that.
Sound like
great.
an Ohio State fan is what we sound like there. Right?
Two really good picks.
More of a Texas fan, but
There you go.
anyway,
Yeah,
I got kind of a what would you do question if the Cowboys do take McMillan at 12, and then you get wiped out with your linebackers, your one techs, your cornerbacks, and your Luther Burden was sitting there at 44. Would you take him because he's the best player on the board, or would you move on?
Am I not allowed to take a running back there at
No,
44?
All your running backs are all
of those
gone.
are gone.
Your linebackers
Yes,
are gone.
I would
your
take
one
Luther
techs
Burden
and
at
your
44.
corners.
If Burden falls, that would be tough to go back-to-back wide receivers, but it'd be fun.
But why not though? Let's
Yeah,
do it.
I
Let's
mean,
have some
that'd
fun.
be getting crazy.
I mean, I don't think realistically they would do that.
Do you want your day 2 pick though? I mean, you could get your day 2 pick right there. Be
Oh,
like,
I
hey,
get
Luther
Carson?
Burden's here.
I
Give
get
us a
Carson?
call.
Well, let me.
188 Luther Burden 3.
Well, if I did that, Brian would, get on to me about window dressing my board. You know what I'm saying? Burden is a round one grade for me.
Yeah.
So I would look at it and go, damn, man, I just took a wide receiver here. It's either my second round linebacker or my first round wide receiver. So yeah, we look crazy doubling down that wide receiver. But boy, you just got 2 first round grade at wide receivers in this draft. That's fun. That's fun.
In essence, you did just draft 3 receivers though, because Mingo's your 4th round pick.
And you just paid Turpin.
So we're not going to run the ball at all.
If that's the scenario,
Yeah, you don't need the running back at that point.
You don't even need a running
If
back.
that's their scenario, I think they're trying to bail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would do, though. I don't think you can wipe me out there because at 44, I'd take Gray Zabel. I take the center. Now
Yeah,
we
sure.
talked about moving guys and stuff.
Now you just kick BB over to right guard.
I would just say, okay, if all my guys are gone, give me who we think the best center is, and then go about your business.
Or maybe Mason Taylor from LSU if he's sitting there, the tight end.
I don't think you can wipe him. I don't think you can wipe him out.
Yeah, I don't either. Thank you for the question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Window dress your board.
How you doing, sir?
How's it going, guys? My name is Gunnar. From Oregon, moved to Texas about a year ago. Watch all you guys, Vouch, Brian, love
Thank
you
you.
guys, Bobby, Kyle, go down the list. My question for you guys would be kind of 2 scenarios and how you would feel about them. You get Ted at 12, and then you get to take stabs in the 2nd and 3rd round. Or move back, get a 4th round pick, and you also get Egbuka. How would you kind of feel about those 2 scenarios, and what would you like more?
I think you draft to get the best possible dudes you can. The 4th round pick will be cool, but we got a bunch of 5s that'll be the same thing as that 4th kind of sort of. So if it's the dude that I like a bunch in Tet versus the dude that I like a little bit in Abuka, I like Abuka. He's a good player, but I think Tet is a bona fide guy. I just take the bona fide guy because you draft to get as many of those dudes as you can.
Now, what if you got like a 2nd or 3rd round pick for moving
Well,
back?
that's different then. What do you mean? That's different.
Now
I get my linebacker.
now he's trying to draw you in the fight.
I get my linebacker and my guard then.
Yeah.
But that's more realistic though, because I don't like all right, guys, we're gonna trade back. Just to trade back, right? So now we got to ask, okay, McMillan's on the board. Seattle wants him. Do you give up McMillan for their 2nd and 3rd, or do you take McMillan? And I think that's a tough question. I think it's tough. I think I would take the 2nd and 3rd, but a part of me would love to have that dude, jumping over people on my team. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough.
I think McMillan changes this offense entirely just because they need a vertical threat. And they could say Jonathan Mingo. We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Jonathan Mingo, because we don't know yet because we haven't seen enough of him. McMillan, you're not going to find many guys with his catch radius or his athletic ability. We've talked about his volleyball background and just some of the things that he's able to do in terms of body control in the air. It's exactly what Dallas is looking for. And so when you've got a player like that available, not that Emeka Egbuka or Carson Schlesinger or anybody that you'd pick up with a 2nd or 3rd round picks wouldn't help, but if that's your best player up there and he's a top 5 player on a lot of people's boards, us included, then you go get him.
Yeah, not passing on Ted. I think you run that card in.
Yeah.
6th best player on my board.
No,
Get him at 12.
Absolutely.
I'm taking him there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Okay, if you're not already in line, well, this is probably it. We're not going to be able to take any more questions because we're already getting pressed on time. So let's go a little Fuego Rapido style here. How are you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good. My name is DJ. Big fan of you guys.
Thank you.
I got a question about Rashad Smith, running back from SMU.
Yeah.
And DJ Giddens, who I feel like is the sleeper running back from Kansas State. Where do you guys think they fall in the draft? And if we are wiped out at backs from the 1st and 2nd round, is it enough talent to double dip 3rd round and then later rounds for a back? 2 backs, should I say? That's my question.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at Smith and Giddens, I think they're both in that 3rd, 4th range. Yeah. Smith is fascinating, man, with what he brought from his days as a receiver at Miami and carrying that backfield role at SMU and excelling with it. It was really special to see. But I have both those guys in the 3rd, 4th range. I think that's probably where they end up. I'm a little bit lower on Giddens than most, but I understand the appeal with Giddens. He's a long, slender frame, and it doesn't really come with contact balance, in my opinion. But I understand the appeal on Giddens, I guess you could say.
I've got Giddens and Smith touching tags in the 4th round. Giddens above Smith for me, but you could really sell me either way, I think, on either of those 2 guys. And as far as double dipping with maybe a 3rd and in the 7th, I wouldn't hate it. I just don't know if they would do it, considering they've already got Deuce Vaughn, Javonte Williams, and Miles Sanders already on the roster. But with how deep this running back class is, there are guys that I've got in the 7th, like Jaquindon Jackson from Arkansas, or Ulysses Bentley from Ole Miss, that could make a lot of sense there.
I think if you're going to double dip at running back, and I would even throw wide receiver into this category, because you do have names on your roster that you have either invested in or have at least seen develop over these last couple of years. If you're going to double dip, it would have to be probably a premium pick, so one of those top 3 picks, and then early day 3 in order to really make the value there and put some players on your roster that can contend with those guys. We've mentioned Turpin and him getting paid, and the investment made in Mingo. Running back's the same kind of thing. I mean, Deuce Vaughn's not guaranteed a roster spot at the end of the day. Get somebody to come in and challenge him. And if you have a number 1 running back up at the top, he may be the odd man out in that regard.
There's 2 backs that catch the ball really well in this draft. LaQuinton Allen from Syracuse is another one. Smith and Allen would be 2, if that's what the type of guy you're looking for.
Yeah, I've got them both in the 4th as well, and you mentioned it, the former receiver there for Rashard Smith.
It's interesting.
It is. That's fun, but I wouldn't double dip there. I'd probably just take my guy and maybe undrafted free agency. There's going to be some good ones there. How are you?
Doing well. My name is Alex. Just a big fan of all you guys. Voch, Bryan.
Thank you.
All right. I guess my question is this team a draft away from being able to compete? I guess I would just paint a scenario, first 2 days, if they draft a Matthew Golden in round 1, they go a Ravel falls to him at 44. Yeah. And then you take a pick of a running back, a Tootin who's a 30-day visit, or a RJ Harvey type of guy. Is this team, in a position to put themselves to where they're, you got weapons on offense. You might get some guys back on defense, a Demo, a Diggs, right, throughout the season. Is this team, really a draft away from being able to put themselves back into the division and ultimately
I think yes. If you hit on these picks on the first 2 days, I think so. Let's look at it from last year, right? The depth issues that you ran into with all the injuries that happened last year. You look at that Bengals game, you look at the Washington game, how those came down to 1 play. I mean, that team was 2 plays away from being 9-8 with Cooper Rush at quarterback, which is crazy to think about. This team is not as far away as I think people think. You look at all the All-Pros on the roster. If they could just stay healthy, you add 3 impact players in the first 3 rounds. If you hit on those first 3 guys, like you're saying, I think you're closer than some might realize.
Well, we've had this conversation on the draft show once or twice about the 1 through 10 conversation. Dallas and this coaching staff feels like 1 through 10, this team is as competitive as any other team in the NFL. Now, 11 through 53 is where things kind of get muddied and where you need to add some guys. And I think more specifically, it's the 11 through 30. It's that second tier of guys that if you're going to have some injuries, you need guys to step up into roles. You need somebody else to be there. If Dallas can find 3 guys to be even in the 11 through 30, I think this is a completely different conversation with this football team.
If you hit 12 and Guyton and Nealon step up,
big, yeah.
Similar to what happened in 21 where you hit Parsons and then Lamb and Diggs stepped up, then yes, but they need that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you saw one of these with the Saints back in maybe it was 2017. They hit on Ryan Ramczyk, and then it was Marcus Williams, the safety, Alvin Kamara. And they were one of the best teams in the NFC. They were a 500 team basically prior to that. So if you're able to get 3 legit starters and also you get growth from some of your guys internally, this team can definitely improve. And
Philadelphia turned their defense around with
Sure
2
did.
draft picks, both corners.
Yes, it did.
How are you?
Pretty good, man. Jamori Woods, UNT grad.
What's up, Jamori? Come on, let's go.
I'm a big family guy, and so I wanted the Cowboys to draft my cousin Rick Woolen in 2022, but we ended up with Deron Bland, so I ain't mad at it. But one quick question, since I'm a family guy, how do you guys feel about pairing Azareye'h Thomas with his brother Wanye, bringing that secondary together, adding a little juice because your family is real tight for them.
Sure.
So I wonder what you guys think about that.
Second round corner, great size, good length, can run. He doesn't have all the technical corner things down already, but the Cowboys love that because they'll take all those traits and they'll boost all that up and coach him. I think he'll be good to go in the long run. Could play outside and inside, sure.
Yeah, this guy's got really good body control and balance too. And it's 6'2", 197. I mean, quarterbacks don't have a lot of success throwing the ball to him. Super competitive. The length, all those things are positive. The way he moves. Sometimes you worry about a guy that tall being really leggy and the way he turns. not this kid at all. He's a really good player in that way.
Yeah, despite that size, typically with him being leggy,
Yeah.
I have him as one of the best man corners in this draft,
Yeah,
and I still see him
absolutely.
as scheme versatile. That
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
can play in his
Absolutely.
own scheme as well.
Off the field, the Cowboys love him. They think he's one of the highest character type of players in this draft. So they're big fans of the football character too, Monday through Saturday with him.
Yeah, won the Bobby Bowden Leadership Award. The dude's a high character guy, and the tapes matches it. I mean, he's awesome. At 44, wouldn't mind that pick at all. For
sure.
Thank you.
We should get a Bobby
Good
Belt
question.
Leadership Award.
Bobby Belt? Well, Bobby
Ooh.
Belt.
I don't know what that criteria would look like.
Hey guys, Jason Elliott. I'm a UNT RTVF alum.
Let's go.
Yeah,
And a voiceover
RIP
artist.
Thank, thank you. RIP Professor Mercer.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Really enjoy y'all on the draft show. Bobby and Zach on the fan. Bryan on the fan. Really respect y'all's knowledge and really enjoy hearing you talk Cowboys football and draft.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tommy and Zach, for preaching my gospel on Tet. This offense needs that. This offense needs explosion. It needs domination, and that's what Tet will bring. He's Dak friendly. Dak isn't a consistent, accurate quarterback, so you need a receiver that has a large catch radius like Tet does. And he's a possession receiver, dominant possession receiver. We need that as well. My question is, and this is probably more so for Bryan and Bobby, just because y'all are connected with scouting so much. I've been watching the draft since 1989, and I've always wondered this. What happens in the scouting world when, say, a scout who has a high grade on so many players, but then when research is done, those players don't really perform well, and then vice versa, what happens to scouts who do grade players high and they do pan out and they do match the grades like consistently? Are there rewards? Is there a competition amongst scouts that's like, hey, I hit on this many guys and you hit on this many and things like that?
Yeah, if you don't hit enough, you do media. But yeah, it's always you do go through it. You do deep dives on and you do deep dives. Sometimes you have scouts that are responsible for certain positions. Tom Siskowski, he used to be a scout with the Cowboys,
right?
Who found Larry Allen, Sonoma State and all that, and really pushed hard for him. Tom was the offensive line guy, and so as you're going through that, if you're hitting on those guys, that's you acknowledge that if guys that have a high hit rate, when they say something, you listen. Maybe a guy that doesn't have, you'll say, okay, thank you. Is there anything else we got to do here? You really do. A good director will know which scouts are really good at certain positions, and if they bring up another position that maybe you can say, maybe not there, but you're always evaluating your guys.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times the results just for your own team matter. So, like, I've talked to scouts about this before, where it's an issue of you may have had a really high grade on somebody who hit in a big way. Like for instance, let's say somebody with the Saints had said, Deron Bland's a second-round player to me, and then they didn't pick Deron Bland. The Saints are not going to remember 4 years from now, apparently, that you liked Deron Bland. They're not going to really factor that in. It's just about what did you do for us? And so, I think a lot of times it's just who did your team pick, and did your projection for them pan out, less so than what did you have to say about your entire class that year, and how did they play out for us or for other teams?
Great question. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Sean, fellow UNT alum.
There we go, Sean.
Drove
Like
up from
3 in a row. Come
This
on
is
now.
awesome. Go, Mean Green.
Yeah. Drove up from Port Lavaca again today. So,
Ben,
thank
appreciate
God
that.
for the Audacy app. It helped move down there easier. My question is we kind of have 5 positions needing a starter this year. What is the one position you guys have to take away by the end of day 2? I know y'all talked about D-tackle pushing to the 5th, running back pushing to the 5th. Kind of name you're going to die on this hill by the end of day 2, guy.
Corner.
Thank you.
Corner.
Yeah, you
corner.
need a corner.
Yeah.
Somebody that's going to rotate in because you don't know the health of Trayvon Diggs at the start of the season. We saw the rotating door in terms of injuries. You got to get some depth there.
I'll say running back.
I'll be different. I'll say they need a wide receiver too. To me, that they cannot survive based on the weapons they currently have.
Yeah, I'd go wide receiver as well there, Bobby. What's up?
How's it going, guys? I'm Colby. What's going on, man? I watch all you guys, but I'm one of Voch's guys, man. love you to pieces. But yeah, man. I wanted to. I know that there's lots of Longhorn fans here. Don't kill me. I'm one of them boys out of Texas A&M. Yeah,
a lot of Aggies. There's a couple of them.
Okay, hey, we
No
represent
comment.
a little bit, but I know that we've had lots of talk about those guys out of Texas that we all love. There's lots of guys we love. I know that maybe the Texas A&M guys aren't players for the Cowboys specifically, but I wanted to ask Bobby about what people are saying about Walter Nolan's mentality and what kind of general thoughts are on that versus his on-field talent versus off-field, because I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, no, I think that Nolan definitely, there were questions about his departure from A&M when he went to Ole Miss. From people I've talked to around the league who have dealt with Nolan, they all seem to feel generally comfortable with him and where he's at this stage. But yeah, I think with A&M, there was considered a lot over the last couple of years, just a lot of weird fits for them and a lot of weird culture fits and things that didn't work out so great. I mean, you had, what's the name of the kid who transferred to Oregon, the receiver?
Evan Stewart.
Evan Stewart was one who just was not a fit at A&M, and it was a lot of headbutting, and he went to Oregon, and things have been better. I think there's still questions there, but things have been better, and so I think Nolan needed a fresh start kind of guy, and I think a lot of NFL teams are, including Dallas, I think satisfied for the most part about where he's at and how that time ended.
I'll tell you what I'll ask, because I worked there, like in the building with those players, in the locker room every day for like a year and a half. I will say I don't know how he is after spending a year at Ole Miss, but I will say that he was a guy who showed up 20, 25 minutes to practice every day, was a guy who attitude was not great comparatively to the rest of the team. Like walked around with a blanket everywhere, shuffled his feet, walked around. So that like completely turns me off. And then to him personally, and thing is, people change. Maybe he just hated it there in the environment. I didn't see it, but and then I will say that every single thing that people say about Shamar Stewart is true, if not more, as far as his athleticism. You see that guy in person and you go like, holy shit. that
freak.
Guy's built like a Greek god. Good Lord. So and then but he's not going to be a leadership guy. He's very quiet, reserved, keeps to himself. So that's one thing to know about him. And then Nick Scorton, leadership guy, production guy. I know people not as high on him, but that's just some general insight from inside the building.
Thank you, man.
That's good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think A&M had a culture problem in general, because I think they felt like over the last few years, you look at Bobby Brown, DeMarvin Leal, some of the other guys who were considered issues at A&M that they got things ironed out. I think a lot of people felt like A&M, that program, had some issues.
Under Jimbo Fisher, for sure. I think
Yes.
Mike Elko's turning it around, though.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, take us home, man. How are you?
Pretty good. My name is Steve Hall from
What up,
Maybank.
Steve?
I met Bobby Bell at the fire station tour in DeSoto.
Yep.
And my question was, all the mock drafts are showing that Ashley Genty might be going to the Bears at 10. What do we have to give up to jump the Bears at 9 with the Saints?
Yeah.
And if they do jump at 9 and get Genty, would Xavier Restrepo or Arian Smith be a good at 44?
In order, the point differential there, looking at the chart, it's 150 points to get to 9. 150 points up, so it really is only going to take your third-round pick.
Yeah.
You'll give up 76, but if Genty's there and you walk away with Genty, I think I would sign up for that.
Yeah.
I love Genty, and I think a lot of people there with the Cowboys love Genty. I think they internally have.
Because I think Chicago Bears would probably be taking him.
Oh, they'd be taking him. I don't think he's going to even make it that far. But
I would be shocked if he makes it past
I think I don't think
the Raiders.
I think he's 5 or 6 at this point. Honestly, I think that Dallas is working enough internally on just the question of why does he break enough of our rules to take him at 12. That I think it'd be a whole other conversation of why should we go up and trade for him, especially when we don't have a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
And so I'd have a really hard time seeing them doing that.
Or having Xavier Restrepo or Arian in the later rounds. Go double dip on wide receivers.
I think either of those guys would be available to you on day 3.
On day 3.
Yeah, 44 would be a little high for me. Thank you very much. All right, it is time to go ahead and bring the CD helmet and Dak jersey out. Now, Broaddus, you're going to draw the winner for these, okay? So we're going to have Bryan draw the winner, which I guess we've got this right over here.
So please take your complaints to Bryan Broaddus.
Yeah, this is going to be all Bryan's fault.
Audacy.com.
It's nothing new.
Give me that Dak jersey, Bryan.
You want that Dak jersey?
Yeah, I want the Dak jersey.
All right. So how do we do this? Just open it up?
Do we got to give a drum roll here for Bryan? Sounded like an airplane.
I tried, dog. I tried.
Dak jersey first, right?
Yeah, let's go Dak first and CD second.
All right, here's the number for the Dak jersey. All right, it's going to be 23.
23! Hey! Congratulations. And here is for the CD.
And here's the CD. We got the CD helmet.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah,
a
we got a
signed
CD helmet. It's signed.
It better be 88.
2.
Wow. Good stuff.
He got the first question and the CD helmet. What a night. What a night.
It's because he's from Waco. Good things happen from the 254.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much to everybody for coming out here. This has been awesome, and the passion certainly did not go unnoticed. Great questions as well. Thank you to Whataburger. We appreciate all of you, and hopefully you continue to come out to Draft 101. This has been an awesome event. Thank you so much. Hugs and hand pounds, everybody. Let's kick this draft's ass.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.